After traveling through time, I married 2 wives. Lin Yu accidentally traveled to the backward and feudal Chang Dynasty, where he became a fool of a farmer. Chang was poor, with heavy taxes, but wives were assigned, allowing men to afford multiple wives and concubines, though they couldn't afford to increase the corvée labor. As a poor man who was unexpectedly given 2 wives, Lin Yu just wanted to do his best to protect the happiness before him. Unexpectedly, he became embroiled in the power struggles of the aristocracy. In order to live a peaceful life with his wife and children, Lin Yu had no choice but to grow stronger when faced with challenges. As a result, he unintentionally rose to become the wealthiest man in Chang, contributing greatly to the country, to the point where even the old emperor wanted to marry his daughter, the princess, to him. I am but a commoner, and it's an honor to serve His Majesty by helping in the court. As for marrying the princess, well, that requires more money. Chapter 1: The Fool Who Could Be Bullied by Anyone. Lin Yu leaned against the crumbling mud brick wall and sighed deeply, feeling the weight of his situation. Xian Ren Ban Ban, I never thought I would time travel, he muttered. Before he transmigrated, Lin Yu was a typical 90s generation left behind child in a rural village. He had lived a carefree life, receiving wooden toys crafted by his grandfather and delicious Sichuan cuisine from his grandmother. He never had to worry about food or drink and grew up in happiness without a care in the world. Naturally, he was able to get into a regular second-tier university, graduate, and start a live streaming career as a village guardian, earning hundreds of thousands annually. He had just built a 2-story villa for his grandparents and bought them a car. A neighbor, an elderly woman who often helped him clear his phone memory, even tried to introduce the village beauty's granddaughter to him as a potential wife. However, while rescuing a few drowning children from a river near his house, Lin Yu lost his breath and unexpectedly transmigrated into the Chang Dynasty, a kingdom that had never existed in Chinese history. Well, since I've transmigrated, I can't complain. But why did I end up as a fool? The original owner of the body, also named Lin Yu, was 18 years old and had a tragic backstory. He had been born during a time of rebellions when his mother died from illness, and he was left to fend for himself with his father, who worked as a butcher. In an attempt to bring honor to his father and reduce the family's taxes, he worked hard to become a tongxing, a student who passed elementary level exams. However, 3 years ago, when the new dynasty was established, the reigning emperor, Emperor Wulong, did not recognize the previous dynasty's civil exam results. Lin Yu's status as a tongxing was annulled, and his father, worn out by work, passed away soon after. Faced with these setbacks, the original owner of this body lost his sanity and became a fool. Before his father's death, he had entrusted 10 taels of silver to his cousin, the village head of Shilin, to care for him. With the price of 1 tael of silver equaling 1,000 coins and rough rice selling for 5 coins per pound, the family could live for several years with their 2 acres of rice field, even after paying taxes. But since the original Lin Yu became a fool, his cousin's family barely fed him, often leaving him hungry for days. This morning, Lin Yu had gone up to the mountain to find wild sugarcane, but after overexerting himself, he fainted from low blood sugar and shock. Now, he had become a substitute. The Chang dynasty is much like the early days of the Tang dynasty, with everything in ruins and in need of rebuilding. This kind of feudal kingdom, which could starve people to death, not even a dog would want to live here. Luckily, Shilin village was located in Jiannandao, Ezhou, Jingyang County, a fertile plain in Shu, surrounded by mountains and rivers. Based on the skills he learned from his grandparents in his past life, Lin Yu was confident he could scrape by. The only problem was the heavy taxes from the imperial and local government. Otherwise, he almost felt like giving the heavens a bloody kowtow and time traveling back. Lin Yu picked up the sugarcane he had risked his life for and began sucking on the sweet juice to restore his energy. Just then, he heard footsteps approaching outside the door. He thought it might be his cousin's family finally coming to bring him food. Before he could stand up, the door suddenly slammed open with a bang. 2 bailiffs in black and red official robes kicked open the door. "Little fool, hurry up and get your wife." "Get a wife?" Could this be true? Lin Yu thought, rifling through his memories. In this land, with years of warfare, there were more women than men. In order to quickly replenish the population and national strength, the government had to intervene in marriages. Both nobles and commoners, once a man reached 18 and a woman 16, were required to marry. If not, they would be taxed 500 coins annually as a bachelor tax. In this harsh world, where men were reduced to laborious carrying heavy loads at the docks earning only 10 coins a day, and most of that went to food and drink. The opportunities for women to earn a living were even fewer. Most girls were married off by the time they were 14 or 15, and even becoming a concubine was better than facing taxes, corvée labor, or being sold as a military prostitute. At the start of each year, the village would register all the eligible men and women, and the government would organize monthly matchmaking events. If successful, the man could take the woman home right away and have children. The original Lin Yu had participated in 2 of these matchmaking events. Though he was handsome and well-spoken, he had been rejected when people found out he was a fool. Today, the 3rd of March, was another matchmaking day, but Lin Yu had passed out from shock and missed the time. Who said no one wants to marry me? And now they are sending a wife right to my door? Is this a time travel perk? Lin Yu muttered as he got up, still feeling disoriented. Just then, the 2 bailiffs, each holding a knife, walked in arrogantly, scanning the shabby mud house with disdain. They hadn't expected the village head's cousin's family, who should be living in a spacious courtyard house, to be so poor and shabby, without any profit to be had. Take it slow, sirs, the village head, Lin Shifeng, appeared behind the bailiffs, grinning, and waved toward the door. Come on in and have a look, this will be your home from now on. As soon as he finished speaking, 2 young women entered. One was tall, about 1.7 meters, wearing a grey long dress with a black cloth belt around her waist. She had a hunched back, looking both timid and malnourished. Her chest appeared large compared to her head. The shorter girl, only about 1.5 meters tall, was around 14 or 15 years old, with a pale face but delicate and cute features, although clearly undernourished. You boy, this is Chen Jianyang from Donghubei, she's 18. Her parents died early, her older brother has been in the army for 3 years with no news, her second brother died of illness, and her third brother is crippled from corvée labor. Her grandparents are bedridden. Her relatives no longer want to pay her bachelor tax, and if she doesn't marry soon, she will be sold as a military prostitute. Lin Shifeng emphasized her chest and spoke with a lecherous grin, then pointed to the shorter girl. This is Yang Wei from Donghubei too. She's only 17, but her family has too many children and can't afford to feed them all. If she doesn't marry, she will starve. Seeing Lin Yu staring at Chen Jianyang, Lin Shifeng smiled in satisfaction. Though Lin Yu was a fool, he wasn't a eunuch, and this girl, no matter how prickly, was being sent to him. His body might not be moved, but surely his physical instincts would follow. Lin Shifeng couldn't help but think that if it weren't for the bad reputation of Chen Jianyang, he might have taken her as a concubine for himself. He also had no interest in Yang Wei, who looked like a girl who couldn't bear children due to malnutrition. Third uncle, are they really going to marry me? Suddenly overwhelmed with the idea of having 2 wives, Lin Yu, who had always been single, felt a bit dazed. Lin Shifeng couldn't be bothered to answer. His introductions were just a formality in front of the bailiffs. He then took out 2 marriage certificates from the government, pressed Lin Yu's thumb on them, and handed them to the bailiffs. The older woman was now his wife, and the younger one his concubine. The marriage was settled. Lin Yu was shocked by the unexpected gain of 2 wives, though it felt more like a fright than a joy, especially since these wives had been sent by the village head, who had once tried to starve him. As expected, the true intentions of Lin Shifeng were soon revealed. Chapter 2, You Are My Lucky Stars. Officials, don't worry. I, Lin Yu, will bear the 1 tael silver owed in single tax by Chen Jianyang and Yang Wei from last year, Lin Shifeng, the village head, said with a smirk. If the payment is not made in 3 days, I'll personally tie him up and send him to Rongju Prefecture to work on the road. The road in Rongju Prefecture would pass through the mountains, and all the workers there were strong men who carved stones and opened the way. Someone like Lin Yu, who stood at 1.8 meters tall but weighed less than 120 pounds due to hunger, would only be buried under the road. The Yarman officers saw through Lin Shifeng's greed and sneered. Lin Yu is a fool, and his house doesn't even have a rice jar. How could he possibly gather 1 tael of silver in 3 days with 2 extra mouths to feed? Lin village head, are you not worried about the villagers gossiping behind your back? Hearing this criticism, Lin Shifeng's smile grew even more flattering as he waved his hands and denied it. I dare not harm my nephew. You don't know, but his family still has 2 acres of poor land. They can be sold to me. Let us talk as we walk. Lin Shifeng handed the Yarman officers a few copper coins for tea, leaving behind the two nervous girls and stepping out of the house. Lin Yu finally understood. It seemed Lin Shifeng had greedily consumed the inheritance his father left him and had taken the harvest from his land for 3 years. Now, he also wanted to take over the 2 acres of rice field. By sending 2 girls who owed single tax to his door, he found a legitimate reason to collect his debts. 1 tael of silver for 2 wives. This would have been an unimaginable fortune in his previous life. He looked at one girl, then at the other. No matter which one he picked, they were far more natural and unadorned than the tech-savvy female stars he had seen in his previous life. They were like pure, untainted lotuses. Damn. It seemed like he was starting to fall for this wretched feudal society. The 2 girls, however, were anxious and restless. 1 acre of rice field could yield 3 stones of grain, which was around 360 pounds. After paying the 2/10 tax, only about 300 pounds would remain. After removing their husk, they would get about 200 pounds of rough rice. Subtracting the seeds and losses from natural disasters, 1 season of rice production would earn them only 600 to 700 yuan. At the market price, 1 acre of rice field could be sold for 5 taels of silver. Lin village head wanted to use 1 tael of silver to buy 10 taels of rice field. His calculations were really sharp. Chen Jianyang and Yang Wei were not fools. After calculating this, their faces changed drastically. Yang Wei, being straightforward, tugged at Chen Jianyang's sleeve and asked, "Jianyang, did we drag Lin Gage into this?" She had originally planned to find a rich family to be a concubine and help her pay off the 500 yuan single tax debt. As long as she had enough food, didn't he get beaten or scolded, and wasn't he forced to work like a mule, she would have been willing. But when she saw the house Lin Yu lived in, although it wasn't a thatched hut like hers, it was barren inside, with nothing but a stove, a rusty pot, a few dull knives, and a broken jar with no rice. She felt like coming here had only added to the misfortune. Chen Jianyang had long been accustomed to living with hardship, but no matter how calm she tried to remain, she couldn't help but sigh at the situation. She gently patted Yang Wei's hand, pulling her to sit on the bed that only had a bedboard, and then walked to the stove, picking up a kitchen knife. "Jianyang, what are you doing? Are you thinking of ending it all?" Yang Wei was scared and jumped up, causing Lin Yu to startle as well. Lin Yu reached out to grab the kitchen knife from Chen Jianyang, but she instead picked up the piece of wild sugarcane on the ground and split it in 2. She handed the part she had bitten to Yang Wei and the one with sugar residue to Lin Yu. "I've dragged you down. They are right, I am a bad luck star. I want to make Lin Xiangong pay my tax. 3 days from now, I'll take him to the county office to get a divorce. At that time, Xiao Wei, you can sell an acre of rice field to pay the money and live well with Lin Xiangong." Chen Jianyang straightened her back and raised her head. Lin Yu was stunned by her fuller figure and her beautiful face, momentarily lost in thought, and finally remembered who she was. She had also participated in the marriage viewing 2 times before, and her appearance and figure had captured the attention of all the men who were there. That night, many beds in the village were broken, and even the village head's dog barked all night, its voice hoarse. However, everyone said that she had killed her father, mother, brothers, and even grandparents, claiming that her fate was too harsh. No one dared to marry her. Lin Yu didn't know whether her fate was really as bad as the rumors. But now, such a beautiful woman had become his wife, and she was willing to leave because of money. His fists clenched tightly. "Jianyang, to others, you may be a bad luck star, but to me, you are lucky star. We will face hardship together from now on." His clear and structured words left both Chen Jianyang and Yang Wei stunned. How could a fool speak so eloquently? His words were more refined than the scholarly boys in the village. Could it be that their husband wasn't really a fool? Or maybe Lin village head had knocked on the wrong door. Lin Yu, seeing the doubt in their expressions, pulled them by their hands and threw the kitchen knife far away. "Jianyang, Xiao Wei, as you can see, you've brought me good fortune. I'm no longer a fool." It was easy to save someone's life, but to save their heart was a different matter entirely. He didn't want his wives to live in despair. Encouragement was essential. The 2 girls were suddenly pulled by their hands and instinctively tried to pull away. But when they remembered they had already signed the marriage contract, and even if Lin Yu immediately carried them to bed, it was normal. Seeing their handsome husband who didn't seem like the fool they had heard of, and was instead trying to protect them, they couldn't help but feel moved. Yang Wei, excited, gripped Lin Yu's hand tightly and blushed as she called out, "Lin Gij, hello." As for Chen Jianyan, although her heart was racing, her face remained calm, without any signs of joy. She furrowed her brow slightly. Lin Yu saw this and immediately understood. "Jianyan, you're worried about how we're going to pay the 1 tael of silver tax in 3 days, right?" When it came down to it, Chen Jianyan was only half a year older than Lin Yu, despite being nearly 19 years old. And with her tall, full figure, she seemed much more mature and responsible than Lin Yu, who was slender and still looked youthful. She had a more stable, caring air about her. But to Lin Yu, she was just an 18-year-old girl. Lin Yu placed the half-piece of sugarcane into her hand. Chen Jianyan quickly waved her hand. "Lin Xiangong, I'm not hungry. I ate before I came, and I ate quite a bit." She had treated her last meal like it was her last, even though it had earned her many reproachful looks from her grandparents. But she had been willing to face starvation. However, fate had played a trick on her. Coming to Lin Yu's house, she had been treated like a lucky star and given food. "Jianyan, I'm not asking you to eat the sugarcane," Lin Yu said. "I just want to tell you that with sugarcane, we can earn the 1 tael of silver in 3 days. If we work harder, we could even make more than enough to eat our fill and enjoy some meat." At the mention of meat, both Chen Jianyang and Yang Wei instinctively swallowed. Although they had been taught from a young age to follow the rules of father, husband, and son, they weren't supposed to doubt Lin Yu. But to think that with just wild sugarcane, they could earn several taels of silver. Sweet sugarcane, which could only be bought for 2 when stored during the holidays, could barely yield enough syrup to make a bowl of sweet liquid. They had no money to buy sweet sugarcane to make syrup. Also, the syrup wouldn't sell immediately to wealthy people. Once it hardened, it would become black, hard candy and would lose money. Yang Wei pursed her lips and took a big bite of the sugarcane. Lin Gij, lying means swallowing 1,000 needles. She hated being disappointed. It was worse than being killed. The feeling was unbearable. Lin Yu, not wanting to tease them any longer, pointed to the wild sugarcane grove on the back mountain. "You two go cut 50 stalks of wild sugarcane and bring them back. You'll see for yourselves how money is earned in half a day. If I can't do it, don't say swallowing 1,000 needles, even swallowing 1,000 razor blades is fine." Chapter 3, The Evil Relatives Cut Off the Air. A wild sugarcane weighs about 2 jin. Chen Jianyang and Yang Wei, who had grown up doing farm work, had calloused hands. Cutting 50 stalks of wild sugarcane was an easy task for them. However, being asked to work as soon as they entered the house, without even a meal, made Lin Yu feel a bit ashamed. He could only promise himself that once he made money, he would properly reward them. Yang Wei, with a piece of sugarcane in her mouth, looked at Chen Jianyan, waiting for her to make the decision. Although she was small in stature, her strength was impressive. But what really stood out was her appetite. When they lived in Donghu Bay, if it weren't for Jianyang secretly giving her food, she would have starved long ago. Despite finding it hard to believe, Chen Jianyan, with the opportunity to survive, was willing to give it a try. Moreover, cutting wild sugarcane was nothing for her. "Since my husband has confidence, we are willing to follow his orders," she said. "Watch and see." "I'll go prepare and be back soon," Lin Yu replied. He patted the dirt off his clothes, stepped out of the door, checked the direction, and chewed on the wild sugarcane as he walked toward Lin Shifan's house. In fact, his method of making money was very simple: making brown sugar. Although the concept of sugar had existed for thousands of years, it wasn't until the Chang Dynasty that people regularly consumed malt sugar made from barley or malt. They also extracted syrup from sugarcane or other sweet substances by boiling them. The syrup would harden into lumps known as hard candy, which could be priced anywhere from 50 yuan to several hundred yuan per jin depending on the quality. However, this type of hard candy was different from the ones Lin Yu had eaten in his past life. It contained more impurities, was very hard, and could even break teeth if bitten. Grinding it into powder required tremendous effort, and the sweetness was not sufficient. The raw materials consumed were also huge. What he intended to make, however, was crystallized brown sugar, which could be stored and consumed easily and without impurities. Even if the wild sugarcane wasn't sweet enough, this type of red sugar wouldn't be hard to sell. "My grandmother said, to make the brown sugar crystallize and remain clean, lime is the key," Lin Yu thought to himself. Lime had been discovered and used as a gel for building houses long ago. It could be obtained by burning layers of wood and stone for 7 days. At this moment, Lin Yu didn't have that much time. So, he planned to go to Lin Shifeng's house, where the new wing had just been built, and collect a few handfuls of lime from the walls. After all, it was his money that had built the house, so taking a bit from the corner of the walls wasn't a big deal. Leaving his house, to the north were the lush, towering hills that stretched for over 50 miles. Walking down a gentle stone path that sloped from west to east, he came to a scattered group of about 40 households at the foot of the mountain. The entire Shilin village had fewer than 300 people and had been there for centuries. About a mile to the south was a small river about 1 zhang wide. Lin Yu's home was located at the west of the village near the mountains, while the village head's house was at the east in the most level area near the river. The two houses were about 500 meters apart. On his way, many villagers teased him, openly expressing their envy, jealousy, and frustration. "You, the boy is a scholar, no doubt. He can marry 2 wives in one go. That Chen Jianyang has curves in all the right places. She looks like a great woman to bear children. It's a pity the boy turned out to be a fool. His house will soon be full of people coming and going. Hey, Stone Sanwa, let's go tonight and join in the fun. I want to see if the unlucky star is tough, or if my brother is the one who's tough." Lin Yu stopped in his tracks in front of the brazen village rogue, Shichingjue. It didn't matter to him that they were mocking him. But if they started spreading rumors about his wives, it was no different from putting a green hat on him. Shichingjue was well known in Shilin village for his idle lifestyle. Last year, he brought a wife into his home. However, his addiction to alcohol made him unbearable, and he vented his frustrations by taking it out on his wife. He drove her to the point where, in 6 months, she had attempted to drown herself in the river 10 times. The 10th time, she didn't survive. After the authorities investigated, they banned Shichingjue from marrying again for 3 years. Naturally, when he saw Lin Yu, this fool, with 2 wives, he became jealous. Seeing Lin Yu stop in front of him, Shichingjue didn't back down. Instead, he thrust his chest into Lin Yu's and smugly challenged him. "You fool are actually protecting your wives. Can you understand human speech? Can you even perform your husbandly duties?" Without a word, Lin Yu grabbed the wild sugarcane he hadn't eaten yet and shoved it into Shichingjou's mouth. After doing that, he clapped his hands and laughed exaggeratedly. "Har har har, Shichingjou, your mouth is tough, but why didn't it choke you to death? Spit! Spit!" Shichingjou spat out the wild sugarcane, which was now covered in blood and foam. He hadn't expected Lin Yu to be so ruthless, catching him off guard. He wanted to retaliate, but when he looked into Lin Yu's deep eyes, he saw a murderous intent. He also noticed the blood-stained sugarcane in Lin Yu's hand, causing him to shiver. The usually meek, fool Lin Yu had suddenly acted like a normal person and was angry. Shichingjou may have had the audacity to spread rumors about Chen Jianyang, but that was because her husband was a fool. If it were someone else's wife, he wouldn't dare to talk nonsense. Now, he was so intimidated by Lin Yu's gaze that he forgot about retaliating. Lin Yu had no intention of revealing his true nature just yet. He didn't want Lin Shifeng to find out and interfere with his plan to make money. Having silenced Shichingjou, he swung the wild sugarcane and continued walking forward. The villagers who had just mocked him, whether it was because they found the blood on the sugarcane unlucky or they were ashamed to be intimidated by a fool, scattered in groups, leaving only Shichingjou standing there, glaring at Lin Yu's back. "Enjoy it while you can, brat. When you can't support those 2 wives anymore, I'll offer them a penny and they'll sleep with me for the night." Shichingjou muttered darkly. Lin Yu didn't hear Shichingjou's plan. By the time he reached Lin Shifeng's door, he was focused on the task at hand. "The Yarman has been taken care of. 3 days from now, bring the land contract, and they'll help with the transfer. The fields will be transferred to Sanwar's name right on the spot." Lin Shifeng's voice was heard from inside. "You go ahead and scatter the rice seeds. From now on, treat it like your own field and take good care of it." Lin Shifeng and his wife Chen Fangju were like 2 short jars, sitting opposite each other on bamboo chairs at the door of the house to plot. Seeing him coming, they didn't plan to hide it. In their eyes, Lin Yu was still the fool who was sold and had to count money for others. Seeing him holding a piece of wild sugarcane in his hand, Chen Fangju stretched out her hand to ask for it. "You are good, you boy, you dare to eat sugarcane behind your aunt's back. Go to the back mountain of your house and cut a few more, and share them with your brothers and sisters." "Oh." Lin Yu, as usual, handed over the wild sugarcane submissively. Seeing that the top was chewed, Chen Fangju didn't care, bit the other end that was not chewed, and talked to Lin Shifan with a smack of her lips. Once we get the paddy field, Sanwa's marriage to the landlord Chen's family can be settled. They said that if I have a daughter, I will find someone who can continue the family tradition of farming and studying. Sanwa hasn't passed the exam yet, so he can take his time. But our family has 4 acres of paddy fields, half of which were given to Dorwa and Erwa. How can Sanwa be called a farmer and a scholar if he doesn't have any land? Chen Fangju spat out the sugarcane residue, glanced at the former student Lin Yu who was listening with disdain, and lowered her voice. Boss, I heard that there are pandas walking in the deep mountains recently. When we buy the land and this idiot is too hungry, you take him to the deep mountains. He will die if he encounters a panda. Next year, we will sell his 2 widows to a brothel, and we can add a dowry to our daughter. Skin him and eat his meat, split his bones and make soup. After the family was wiped out, Lin Yu felt a chill in his heart. I was born with hard bones, and I will poke your spine to death. He didn't want to waste precious time listening to them talk about how to eat people. He turned around and went to the newly built wing room, and pulled out a grey sack from the firewood pile. When he opened it, he found that there were still more than 10 pounds of quicklime powder. It was too much and he couldn't take it away. He grabbed a broken pottery bowl and scooped a bowl. Just as he walked out of the woodshed, he ran into Chen Fangju who followed him. The other party saw that he was holding a bowl with anger on his face, and when he got closer and saw that it was not flour but lime powder, he laughed. Boss, come and see your nephew, he is so stupid that he can't even tell the difference between flour and lime. After Chen Fangju laughed, she deliberately asked Lin Yu in a sarcastic tone. You kid, you took a bowl to hold lime powder, don't you want to pour it into the pot and cook it? Chapter 4, This Husband is Different. Lin Yu didn't expect Chen Fangju to be so clever. He deliberately shook the broken bowl, sending a faceful of dust toward her. Auntie, if you want to eat, I can cook it for you, he said. Spit, spit. You fool, stop shaking it. Chen Fangju, covered in dust, angrily stormed into the woodshed. She grabbed the remaining 10 or so pounds of lime, shoved it into Lin Yu's arms, and grinned maliciously. You take this back and pour it into the pot. You can't just eat it yourself, the whole family needs to eat their fill. Although Chen Fangju felt a little heartbroken about giving away so much lime for free, she thought of the moment when the lime would be put into the pot. It would block up the iron cauldrons at Lin Yu's house, making it impossible to cook even wild vegetables. Once those 2 girls who came into his home today realized the fool was hopeless, they would lose all hope. They knew no one in Shilin village would back them up, and this fool would always be easily manipulated. The business of selling the water fields would be smooth sailing. Lin Yu, receiving half a bag of lime for free, casually tossed the broken bowl inside and flashed Chen Fangju a simple smile. Thank you, auntie. Don't thank me, hurry back and cook some lime soup for your wives. Chen Fangju nearly pushed him out the door, wiping the dust from her face. As they passed by neighbors outside, she made a point of loudly announcing how much she had helped her nephew, as if she had given away 10 or more pounds of flour instead of lime, making the neighbors silently roll their eyes. Only Lin Yu knew that the value of this lime was much greater than white flour. He returned home, holding the half bag of lime. At the door, there were already 30 or so green and white wild sugar canes stacked up. 3 more had been thrown to the stove front, waiting to be used as firewood. Wild sugar canes generally matured around October. Even if they were stored well, by March or April of the next year, they would turn into dry, woody stalks. Lin Yu went inside, grabbed a kitchen knife, picked a sugar cane, peeled off the skin, and squeezed out the juice. Back when I used to make sugar with grandma, it would take 10 pounds of sugar cane to make 1 pound of brown sugar. But this wild sugar cane has less sugar. After squeezing the juice manually, 10 pounds would only yield half a pound of sugar. In the original owner's memory, the best hard candy in Jingyang County sold for 500 wen per pound. However, wild sugar cane syrup was rarer, and a pound could be sold for a full tael of silver, with immediate demand and no stock left. The original owner's father had passed away, and the tavern owner had sent for the best doctor in the city. When it was clear the doctor couldn't cure him, the tavern owner even gave an extra 3 taels of silver for his services. The unique recipe for making sugar was well known. If you had money, you'd work with good people to earn together and avoid being eaten alive in shady dealings. Determined, Lin Yu walked along the stone path that had been trodden up the back mountain, heading north. After about 100 meters, he saw Chen Jianyang, carrying a bundle of trembling wild sugar canes, walking toward him.
Jianyang, how many more do we need?
Only about 10 more. Xiao Wei can bring them back, no need to trouble you, husband. When their hands touched earlier, Chen Jianyang noticed that her husband's right hand had calluses from writing. But his left hand was softer and more delicate than theirs, suggesting he hadn't done much hard labor when he was young. The rough skin of the wild sugar cane might cut him, and she couldn't bear to see him get hurt. Lin Yu felt like he was being treated like a child. Seeing the sweat on Chen Jianyang's forehead threatening to drip into her eyes, he raised his sleeve and gently wiped it away to prevent it from affecting her walking. Thank you, husband.
Chen Jianyang's heart raced, and she quickly turned her face away.
She had always seen women wiping sweat from their husbands, but this was the first time she had encountered a husband willing to help his wife like this. Her husband seemed different from others.
Jianyang, you always say things like sorry or thank you, but you shouldn't be so distant. From now on, you're not allowed to say those things.
Lin Yu smiled when he saw that she nodded silently, seemingly not taking his words seriously. However, her ears were burning red, and it was clear she was extremely shy, making him quietly laugh inside.
Har har, I didn't expect Jianyang to be a little proud.
He quickly turned to leave, worried that if they continued talking, his newly married wife might become too embarrassed. He gently guided Chen Jianyang back to the yard and turned to walk toward the wild sugar cane field. From a distance, he saw a dense patch of grass with about half an acre of green and white wild sugar canes standing tall. Although he couldn't see the girl in the blue dress, Yang Wei, he could hear the faint, crunching sound of sugar canes being cut down. Before long, another few sugar canes fell with a loud thud. He could already tell that Yang Wei was cutting down the canes with great speed and strength. As Lin Yu neared the sugar cane field, Yang Wei was enthusiastically bundling the wild sugar canes with grass.
Xiao Wei, take a rest, I'll handle it.
As soon as he spoke, Yang Wei worked even faster. In just a few steps, she had finished binding the sugar canes and carried the bundle on her shoulder, turning to give him a sweet smile. Brother Lin, you're too weak, being a scholar. Leave this rough work to me and Jianyang's sister.
Lin Yu glanced at his own thin ribs.
He couldn't blame Xiao Wei for calling him weak. Once he made money, the first thing he would do was buy more food to fill his stomach and gain some weight. He couldn't afford to be seen as weak, holding the family back. But for now, he wasn't going to shy away from helping. He picked up the tail of the wild sugar cane and shared the weight with Yang Wei. Yang Wei, looking at him, turned her head and glanced at the exhausted Lin Yu. Her apricot eyes sparkled with excitement. Marrying a man means wearing clothes and eating food. Brother Lin works so hard, she and Jianyang's sister would surely have a good life. The two of them returned home carrying the wild sugar canes. Chen Jianyang was standing in front of the water jar, using a gourd ladle to scoop up some water to drink.
Jianyang, I'm thirsty too.
Yang Wei grabbed another gourd ladle hanging by the jar and poured water for Lin Yu. Lin Yu was breathing heavily, his hands trembling.
Husband, let me get you another ladle. No need.
Thirsty beyond belief, Lin Yu snatched the ladle and gulped down the remaining half of the water. Seeing that he had drunk the leftover water and even used the same spot on the ladle, Chen Jianyang's cheeks flushed with a hint of red.
He won't taste anything different, will he?
Lin Yu finished drinking and sighed in satisfaction. This mountain spring water is really sweet.
Chen Jianyang secretly sighed with relief.
She sneakily glanced at his lips and touched her own moist lips with her fingers.
It's sweet, isn't it?
She thought about how she would one day share intimate touches with her husband, and her cheeks grew even hotter. Lin Yu didn't think about that. He quickly drank 3 ladles of clear, sweet spring water to rehydrate and get ready to work.
Jianyang, Xiao Wei, let us first peel and chop the sugar canes, then use clean stones to squeeze out the juice.
We'll extract as much as we can.
Chen Jianyang and Yang Wei exchanged a look, both worried.
They feared that the sugar syrup from the wild canes would turn bitter, and even if they boiled a few pounds, it wouldn't be worth much.
Not to mention making enough to earn a tael of silver in 3 days.
But despite their worries, they worked efficiently. In less than 2 hours, they had chopped up 55 wild sugar canes, filling the pottery jars with a batch of sugar cane juice, about 20 pounds in total, filled with impurities. If they had used a machine or professional tools, they could have extracted 40 or 50 pounds of juice from 100 pounds of sugar cane, wasting only half of it. Jianyan, Xiao Wei, I'll take care of boiling the sugar. You two can rest. Lin Yu stacked the sugar cane pulp at his feet, grabbed a bundle of kindling, and prepared everything to start boiling the sugar. Chen Jianyan, seeing that Lin Yu had strained the mixture several times but the pot still had plenty of white foam and residue floating on top, couldn't he help but worry. Husband, people of noble birth, 1 tea drink sugar syrup mixed with all this residue. Chapter 5 Sweet Honey. Lin Yu raised his eyebrows slightly when he heard this, and smiled confidently and calmly, but deliberately kept it a secret. Jianiang, the sugar we boil is not for drinking, but for eating. Facing the two who had never seen brown sugar, no matter how much he explained, it was useless. After he lit the fire, he mixed a small handful of lime into the pottery jar according to the ratio of 100 kilograms of sugarcane juice to 2 tails of lime, and stirred it with water to make lime water. The purpose of using lime water is to neutralize the acidity in the sugarcane juice, so that the boiled sugar will be sweeter. Wild sugarcane is more sour, at twice the amount. Lin Yu took advantage of the syrup not boiling, poured in 70% lime milk, and kept scooping out the dregs floating on the top layer. While observing the changes in the color of the syrup in the pot, he smelled the smell in the air and poured the remaining lime water in 3 times. When the syrup in the pot boiled and overflowed with golden sugar bubbles, the air was filled with a sweet aroma. Yang Wei, who was standing nearby chewing wild sugar cane, immediately put down the wild sugar cane in her hand and came to the pot. Brother Lin, the syrup you boil smells so sweet. It will taste even sweeter later. Lin Yu put 2 pieces of wood as thick as thighs into the kitchen and changed to a slow fire. When he and his grandmother boiled sugar, they had to put some oil in the pot to prevent it from overflowing. But there was no oil or water at home, so they could only control the fire and boil it for a while longer. During the boiling process, they had to stir it with a clean stick to prevent it from coking and solidifying into hard candy. This was an extremely physically demanding chore, and a large pot of sugar cane juice had to be stirred for 2 hours. Fortunately, there was less syrup in this pot. After stirring for 3/4 of an hour, the edge of the pot was covered with a slightly burnt hard candy film. Lin Yu picked up a piece with a stick, poked a hole with 2 chopsticks and blew a breath into it. Like blowing sugar figures, 2 translucent sugar buns, as big as heads, were blown out and handed to Chen Jianyang and Yang Wei. You eat first, I'll take out the remaining syrup and make sand. Chen Jianyang and Yang Wei held the sugar buns in their hands, smelling the sweetness close at hand, looking at each other, and no one was willing to eat them. Such good things should be given to their husband first. They looked at Lin Yu, who was still working hard. There was no mold for syrup at home, so Lin Yu could only put the sticky syrup into 2 pottery jars. After filling, he started stirring immediately without waiting for it to cool down. Slowly, the syrup began to sand. Lin Yu used all his strength to quickly rub the pieces of sugar into powder and rub out 2 jars of slightly hot red sugar. Due to limited tools and insufficient strength of this body, the rubbed sugar was not uniform in thickness. But its sweetness and hardness were far ahead. Husband, is this brown sugar? To be precise, it's brown sugar. Lin Yu picked up a piece of brown sugar the size of a fingernail and put it in his mouth. It's not choking, but it has a sweetness like honey. It's done. He turned his head and glanced at the 2 people who didn't eat the candy, and picked out 2 large pieces of candy. Open your mouth. Yang Wei, who was almost swallowing her saliva, opened her mouth, bit Lin Yu's finger, and swallowed the whole piece of candy into her mouth. Suddenly, her almond eyes widened, her face was filled with a happy smile, and she kept nodding to Chen Jianyang. Sister Jianyang, Brother Lin's candy is sweet. Chen Jianyang was also greedy, but she was a little reserved. She didn't open her mouth directly. She took it with her hand and lowered her head to put the soft candy into her mouth. The brown sugar melted in her mouth, and before she could taste it carefully, it turned into sugar water and swallowed it. So sweet. Husband, you are so amazing. You really made sugar from wild sugarcane. Of course. Lin Yu enjoyed the admiring eyes of the 2 women and announced confidently. I sell this kind of red sugar for 1 tael of silver per catty. The rich people in the city are rushing to buy it. The sugar I just made is enough to pay the tax. You don't have to worry about it this time. His words made Chen Jianyang and Yang Wei feel sweet not only in their mouths, but also in their hearts. They have never experienced the feeling of being put on the tip of someone's heart in their lives. Compared to making money, their husband thinks that their business is the most important. Looking at the pottery jar in their husband's hand, there can be 5 or 6 catties of sugar. I suddenly felt that the future life was full of hope. 10 wild sugarcanes can be exchanged for 1 tael of silver. They never thought that making money was as simple as picking up money. Husband, it takes 2 hours to go to the city. Why don't we make more sugar and sell it together? Chen Jianyang rolled up her sleeves, full of energy. Yang Wei took a bite of the sugar man, her eyes curved into crescents with happiness, and she agreed. There are still hundreds of sugarcanes in the sugarcane forest on the back mountain. If they are left for a few days, they will all be chaff. It is better to chop them and boil them into sugar. Okay. Lin Yu actually had this plan. He wanted to buy some tools to squeeze juice into sugar, and also buy some rice, flour, grain, oil and daily necessities for his family. 5 taels of silver sounded a lot, but it was really not enough. I'll go to Brother Shasan's house to get a few eggs, and we'll boil brown sugar eggs to eat, and then continue working. Hearing Lin Yu's arrangement, Chen Jianyang and Yang Wei looked up at the sun in the south. The villagers didn't care about lunch. Besides, they might not be able to eat eggs during festivals, so how could working in the fields be so precious? But Lin Yu ran out of the yard in a hurry after he said that, and didn't give them a chance to refuse. Sister Jianyang, Brother Lin seems to be a bit of a spendthrift. Yang Wei licked her lips and muttered, he eats eggs before he earns any money. This doesn't look like a family that is going through life. Chen Jianyang bit the candy man lightly, smiling sweetly. Isn't it good that my husband is willing to give me food and drink? Even if my husband is a spendthrift, she will follow his lead without a second thought. Lin Yu, who had just left the house, ran into Brother Shasan, who was carrying a backpack. Brother Shasan usually carries bags at the dock, but recently he went home to do farm work after sowing seeds in the rice fields. He was thin and dark, and his skin glowed in the sun. Although he was only in his early 20s, his eyes were covered with fine lines due to the hard work of life. Brother Shasan's mother was the eldest cousin of Lin Yu's father, and they had a good relationship since childhood. Lin Yu's father was beaten by his grandfather for 3 months because he stopped his eldest cousin from marrying a landlord. However, it is not easy for a married daughter to intervene in her mother's family affairs, so she can only secretly help from time to time. But because Chen Fangju always said that the food sent by this aunt was poisonous, the silly Lin Yu believed it. Since he often received help and passed it to Chen Fangju, Shasanj only felt sorry for his misfortune and was angry at his stupidity. This time, from a distance, Lin Yu took the initiative to greet him with a smile. Third brother. Shasanj was stunned. After looking at him for a long time, he confirmed that it was Lin Yu, and then handed the basket to him. You boy, congratulations on marrying 2 wives. Mother asked me to send you some food as a wedding gift. The basket contained an old hen, a small bag of brown rice, and a dozen eggs. The eggs were wrapped in a pile of red paper cuts with the word happiness, which made Lin Yu's eyes warm. The aunt's family was prosperous, but they lived in poverty. Squeezing out these foods from the gaps between teeth, 80% of them will be criticized by the cousins again. You Warzi, take these things back to your wives, don't give them to your third aunt, remember. Shasanj advised earnestly. A sharp and piercing voice suddenly came from the bottom of the slope. You Warzi, I asked you to cut some wild sugarcane, but you haven't seen anyone for most of the day. What did you cut into the dog's stomach? I heard Qingzhu Warzi say that your family is cooking delicious food. Aunt is also a mother. Don't forget your mother after marrying a wife. Let me taste any delicious food first. Lin Yu looked in the direction of their voice. I saw Chen Fangju pinching her bucket waist, panting and climbing up the slope, rushing straight to his house. Shasanj looked at the basket in Lin Yu's hand again, and his scalp tingled. It seems that the gift prepared by my mother will go into my third aunt's stomach. Chapter 6 Food, Sex and Nature. Brother San, please help me get it. Lin Yu stuffed the backpack into Brother Sha's hand and returned home. He picked up a pottery jar and mixed a handful of lime, grabbed a handful of sugarcane residue and threw it in and shook it. I want to eat, so I'll let you eat enough. After leaving the door, Lin Yu splashed the lime water on Chen Fangju's face. Aunt, eat. Chen Fangju heard from Shiqingzhu that Lin Yu's family had been cooking and there was a sweet smell in the air. Suspecting that someone had sent food, she wanted to plunder. At this time, the only things splashed on her face were lime water and sugarcane residue, which did have a sweet taste. But this thing can't be eaten at all. She was about to beat and scold Lin Yu, but when she looked up and saw Shasanwa was there, she could only swallow her resentment. Lin Yu knew Chen Fangju's greed very well. In order to make sugar smoothly next, he took the opportunity to divert the trouble. Aunt, you don't like the sugar cane I soaked in lime water, do you like the sugar cane that Shichinju spits out? What? Chen Fangju heard from the neighbors that her silly nephew poked Shichinju with wild sugar cane. At that time, she was only listening to the fun, but now she knew that the sugar cane she ate was vomited by Shichinju, and her stomach was nauseous. Thinking that Shichinju deliberately asked her to trouble the fool, and ended up being splashed with lime water, she turned away. Eat if you like, don't come to my house these 2 days. She didn't want Shichinju to misunderstand that she wanted to stand up for her silly nephew and bear his anger for him. Shichinju, the street scoundrel, was not a good person. He knew a lot of ruffians and was on good terms with the Yarman runners. She couldn't afford to offend him. Before getting the land deed, she couldn't come to her silly nephew's house again, so as not to be affected by the bad luck of the unlucky star. When he met a villager on the road, he saw that her face was covered with lime water, and curiously asked what happened. It was my stupid nephew who poured lime and sugarcane into the pot to cook for fun. I tried to persuade him but couldn't. Alas! Poor my 2 nieces-in-law. Originally, the villagers who saw Chen Jianyang and others cutting wild sugarcane thought that there was some way to make money. Wanted to ask about it, but reluctant to send gifts. After listening to Chen Fangju's words, he realized that it was the new daughter-in-law who was trying to make the fool happy, and he didn't want to follow suit. Lin Yu didn't plan to explain to Chen Fangju's slander. Until he could no longer see anyone, he took back the backpack from Shasan's hand and bowed. Thank you, third brother. We've been busy making sugar these past 2 days, so it's a bit messy at home. I'll treat you guys to dinner in a couple of days. Okay, You Warzi, you're not stupid anymore. Shasanj saw that Lin Yu was still pretending to be stupid in front of Chen Fangju, and turned around and restored his original scholarly spirit. Surprised and unbelievable, Lin Yu carried the basket home, took out a can of brown sugar, and handed it to Shasanj. You Warzi, what is this? It's a return gift. I made the sugar myself. Don't tell anyone else. Shasanj opened the cork. Although it was the first time he saw brown sugar, he could see how precious it was, and he was envious. Uwazi is not only not stupid anymore, but also inherited his second uncle's craftsmanship to make brown sugar to make money. His future life will definitely be more and more prosperous. Having a skill is much better than those farmers who dig for food in the soil. Brother San, I have nothing to do these 2 days. You can ask my family to go to the mountains to find some wild sugar cane and sell it to me later. Thinking that the wild sugar cane had no owner, Brother Shasan suddenly understood why Lin Yu asked him to keep the sugar-making secret, and nodded his head in response. Brother San, there is one more thing. Lend me the backpack for 2 days. The family was so poor that they didn't even have the tools to transport brown sugar to the city. Lin Yu knew how to weave backpacks and bamboo baskets, but it took too much time to split bamboo, drain water, and paint. This backpack can hold 50 or 60 kilograms, and each person can carry some in their hands, which is enough. What do you mean by lending? I'll give it to you. Go ahead. I'll go home and let your sisters-in-law find wild sugar cane and circle it. Brother Shasan didn't know how much brown sugar was worth. But he also knew that he got a bargain with the gift this time, and he could also make some money by selling wild sugar cane. Everyone in the village said that Chen Jianyang was a jinx. Now it seems that she is not a jinx at all, but a lucky star for Yu Waz's family. At this time, Chen Jianyang was looking for edible wild vegetables on the nearby hillside. March is the time when the harvest is not yet over, and only the wild vegetables in the field have just sprouted. Stir-fry with oil or blanch in water and scoop a small spoonful of bean paste to mix cold, which is refreshing and can fill the stomach. As long as we can survive these 2 days, when the sugar is sold, we don't have to let my husband eat wild vegetables. Chen Jianyang is smart and skillful. In less than 3/4 of an hour, she dug a large handful of wild onions and shepherd's purse. She wanted to walk further into the mountains. If she was lucky, she might be able to pick some wild fruits. She heard Yang Wei calling her in the front yard. Sister Jianyang, come back for dinner soon.
Chen Jianyang was surprised to see the curling white smoke coming out of the house and smell the fragrance of rice. Where did the rice come from? She hurried back to the yard and saw 3 pots of sticky brown rice porridge in pottery jars on the simple dining table made of wood blocks. A hen with reed flowers was in front of the sugarcane residue, constantly scratching with her claws to find insects to eat. Dry pan fried eggs are here. Lin Yu brought the 6 fried eggs to the table and put 2 eggs per person in a pottery jar. Seeing Chen Jianyang staring at the old hen, he explained its origin. Chen Jianyang smiled gratefully when she heard that it was given by Shisanj. It turned out to be a gift from my aunt's family. Don't forget to put it in the account, husband. There is no paper and pen at home, I remember it, eat quickly. Lin Yu was already so hungry that his chest was sticking to his back when he was cooking. He used chopsticks to pick up the rice grains on the edge of the bowl and blew the cool air into his mouth. For Lin Yu, who has always eaten rice and fine white noodles, brown rice tastes very strange. It has an indescribable earthy smell, and it is even more fishy with the fried eggs that have not been fried in oil. He wanted to complain. But when he looked up, he saw Chen Jianyang and Yang Wei biting the fried eggs carefully. They drank the brown rice porridge in small sips, not knowing whether it was because they were hot or hungry, but they were tearful, with a face full of reluctance and happiness. Finally, he swallowed back his hypocritical complaints. After all, this meal was hard to swallow in his opinion, but it was precious to others. Lin Yu buried his head and drank the brown rice porridge in the pottery jar without a grain left. After a while of digestion after the meal, he sealed the completely cooled red sugar into the pottery jar, put it in the backpack and put it in the shade beside the bed. Jianyang, Xiaowei, let's work harder in the afternoon and try to boil 30 kilograms. With the success in the morning, Chen Jianyang and Yang Wei believed in Lin Yu's words. There was less worry when working, and they worked harder and achieved greater results. As soon as the sun set, 30 kilograms of red sugar had been put into the pottery jar and piled next to the bed. After Lin Yu cleaned the pot, he poured a pound of brown rice into the pot, and threw in 3 washed eggs and a handful of wild vegetables. Yang Wei saw his arrogant way of cooking porridge and asked curiously, "Brother Lin, didn't you have enough for lunch?" Lin Yu stirred the porridge and saw Yang Wei looking at the shriveled rice bag in the broken jar from time to time, and laughed. "Xiao Wei, you are still growing up, don't save food. When you come to my house, you can't guarantee big fish and meat for the time being, but you will definitely be full for 3 meals a day." Hearing his promise, Yang Wei quickly squatted down and added some firewood to the kitchen. Without the help of the oil lamp, it was inconvenient to work in the dark. Lin Yu decided to continue making sugar tomorrow morning and rest early today. After dinner, he spread a thick layer of straw on the only bed board in the house. Since he couldn't find any bedding, Chen Jianyang and Yang Wei could only suffer for one night. And he was going to put 2 broken bamboo chairs together and act as a goalkeeper for one night. Food and sex are human nature, but food comes before sex. Animals know to build a nest for females when mating to find enough food. Before changing the harsh living environment, he didn't want to add unnecessary psychological pressure to the 2 girls. Who knows? Chen Jianyang took out a grey-white sheet from her bag and spread it on the straw. She also untied the black belt around her waist, wrapped the straw to make a pillow, handed the pillow to him, and asked with a red face, "Husband, do you sleep in the middle or outside?" Chapter 7 White Silver. Lin Yu stared blankly at the beautiful scenery of the mountains and hills without the restraint of the belt, and the ice and snow gradually melted to reveal the red flowers of spring. He was caught in the dilemma of being a beast and worse than a beast. Before he made up his mind, he risked another shock to be a groom. Yang Wei, who was sitting next to him, suddenly took off her coat, revealing a light red inner garment embroidered with wild ducks, and put her arms around him. "Brother Lin, of course, sleep between us." She said it as a matter of course. But Lin Yu felt the wild ducks that had not grown meat on the inner garments, and pulled out his arms. He had no guilt for consummating the marriage with Chen Jianyang alone, but he really couldn't bring himself to become a beast in front of Yang Wei. If the 3 of them wanted to sleep together, they had to keep it for another year. "This bed is too small, and can only accommodate 2 people. You sleep on the bed, and I'll sleep on the chair." Lin Yu held the black pillow without saying anything, and dragged 2 bamboo chairs to the door. He didn't forget that there were still many beasts in the village who wanted to cuckold him. Squeak! The door blocked the faint moonlight outside. Yang Wei, who was sitting on the edge of the bed, waited for a moment. Seeing that Lin Yu really didn't go to bed, she folded her coat and put it on the bedside, and fell asleep. After a while, the sound of even breathing came, and she slept more soundly than at home. On the contrary, Chen Jianyan, lying on a somewhat uncomfortable straw bed, looked at the door from time to time, and it took half an hour to see it. In her heart, she was looking forward to her husband going to bed to sleep together, but she was also worried that she would not be able to get up tomorrow morning and delay her work. Go to sleep, we still have to make sugar and sell sugar tomorrow. Until Lin Yu murmured as if talking to himself. She closed her eyes quickly after hearing it. She thought she would be nervous for a long time. It might be too tired, or it might be at ease. After a while, she fell asleep deeply. Lin Yu was left scratching his crotch, wanting to turn over but not daring to, staring at the leaking roof and counting sheep. Finally, he tiptoed out to pee, and came back to sleep. The next day, Chen Jianyang and Yang Wei woke up one after another as soon as the roosters crowed outside. Lin Yu woke up when he heard the sound of the two getting out of bed, and saw that they had already begun to clean the room skillfully, and felt distressed. When I earn this hard-earned money, I will definitely let them have some free time. He got up early and boiled brown sugar eggs to fill his stomach. Taking advantage of the heavy dew and sufficient juice, he boiled another 30 kilograms of brown sugar. There was no wild sugarcane that could be squeezed out of juice in the back mountain. Cook and eat early, and go to the city to sell sugar at noon. Put all the 40 kilograms of brown sugar in gores and put it in the backpack to reduce the weight, and Lin Yu carried it on his back. The remaining 20 kilograms were placed in a pottery jar, and Chen Jianyang and Yang Wei carried 2 in each hand. When the villagers asked about it on the way, he pretended to go back to his mother's home. Anyway, the embarrassing thing that Lin Yu's family couldn't open the pot to boil lime water to drink was known to the villagers. No one would think about what good things were in the backpack. Going east from Shilin village, you must pass through Donghu Bay to enter the city. Lin Yu stood at the fork in the road leading to the city and the village, and had not asked the two whether they wanted to enter the village. Yang Wei took the lead and walked towards the city, muttering as she walked. I am not like Sister Jiao Niang who has a good brother. I was kicked out of the house by them. Even if brother Lin has money, I will not go back to my mother's home. Husband, let's go. Chen Jiaoniang knew that if she returned to her mother's home, she would only be driven away and cursed. Even if she cared about her brother, she was busy with her own affairs and could not help at all. It was useless to go back. Lin Yu was not easy to ask about the two original families for the time being. Since they didn't want to go back to their mother's home, he fully respected their wishes. After leaving Donghu Bay, we walked northeast for another hour and a half until there were no mountains blocking the way. From a distance, we saw a walled city built with blue brick walls in the middle of a large plain. That was Jingyan County. The main city of Jingyan County was not big, 7 or 8 miles long from east to west, 3 miles wide from north to south, and the permanent population was just over 10,000. The three checked their household registration at the city gate and confirmed that they were not refugees but people under the jurisdiction of Jingyan County before they were allowed to pass. As soon as she entered the city, Yang Wei looked around and felt that everything was new. Brother Lin, although Donghu Bay is only a dozen miles away from the city, this is the first time I have come to the county town since I was a child. Yang Wei looked at the dazzling array of shops and couldn't see them all. When she saw the pedestrians on the street, they were all dressed very expensively and walked with a fragrant breeze. She was only wearing a linen gown and hadn't taken a shower for a few days and had a bit of sweat. When she saw someone approaching, she hid behind Lin Yu and didn't dare to look around anymore. The county town is very prosperous, but it seems not suitable for villagers like her to walk around. Chen Jianyang also came to the county town for the first time. She suppressed her nervousness and asked, "Husband, where are we going to sell candy? Do we have to stand on the street and sell like those vendors? Go to Qingjiang restaurant." Lin Yu pointed to the tallest four-story building with a civil structure on the main street. Qingjiang restaurant is a landmark building in Jingyan County. The owner is the cousin of the county magistrate, and the actual controller is said to be a child of a noble family. Due to the war, many noble families chose not to show their wealth before the emperor was decided. So even the original owner's father, who had worked here for more than 10 years, had never heard of who it was. After lunch in the afternoon, the restaurant was idle. Lin Yu walked into the lobby, and the old shopkeeper who was dozing off at the counter opened his eyes and saw the person clearly, and suddenly jumped up from the chair. You, why are you here? The old shopkeeper's surname is Tong. He has a good relationship with the original owner's father. Seeing Lin Yu coming, he was surprised and happy, and asked him hurriedly, "Is the family short of food and clothes? Why did your third uncle let you come by yourself? It's not easy to be a fool. I haven't seen him for a year. He is so thin that he is almost skinny." Tong, the shopkeeper, hurriedly called the waiter to bring a bowl of porridge to the kitchen. Lin Yu saw that Tong, the shopkeeper, was still the same as in his memory, a kind old man, and smiled and gestured to the two women behind him. "Uncle Tong, I didn't come here by myself. I brought my wife with me." "Wife? Too?" Tong, the shopkeeper, was startled at first, and then again, and looked at Lin Yu in surprise. Are you okay? Whose fool can speak so fluently and clearly?" Lin Yu first introduced Chen Jianyang and Yang Wei, and then attributed the reason why he was not stupid to marrying a wife. Hearing that Tong was sighing and feeling relieved, he finally took out a few pieces of silver from his bosom and stuffed them into Lin Yu's hand. You call me uncle, this tale of silver is a gift, pay the tax first, and live a good life with your two wives in the future. The sugar has not been sold yet, but the silver is in hand, which makes Lin Yu laugh and cry. The elder's gift cannot be refused. He took the silver and handed it to Chen Jianyang, and put the backpack on the counter. The heavy backpack pressed the wooden board of the counter and made a creaking sound, and Tong curiously looked over. You come if you want to, why bring local specialties, it's too formal." "Oh, Uncle Tong, this is a local specialty but not for you, it's sold to the restaurant." Tong was embarrassed for a moment, then he retracted his head and lost his curiosity. He saw that Lao Lin had sold a lot of local specialties in the mountains, and there were many kinds, but there was a particularity about this thing. That is, the heavier it is, the less valuable it is. "Yes, Yu Warzi knows how to make money to support the family. Put the basket in the back kitchen and let Chef Chen estimate the price." "Uncle Tong, the things I want to sell are a bit expensive, and Brother Chen may not be able to make the decision." Hearing Lin Yu's words, Tong the shopkeeper couldn't help laughing. He has been the shopkeeper for so many years, and he has seen all kinds of delicacies from mountains and seas. Even bear claws and deer antlers are not expensive in his eyes. "Since you think it's expensive, Yu Warzi, I'm just free to help you judge it." Tong the shopkeeper's tone was full of ridicule. He pulled off the linen covering the red sugar, and a sweetness he had never smelled before came to his nose. A lot of sugar grains fell on the counter with a rustling sound, and a few of them splashed into his mouth. Chapter 8. The 3-day deadline has come. Tong, the shopkeeper, had not had time to spit out the sugar grains that melted in his mouth, so he quickly closed his mouth and sipped them, fearing that they would flow out with his saliva and be wasted. Sweet. He has lived for 50 years and has been a restaurant shopkeeper for 30 years. This is the first time he has eaten such delicate brown sugar. Looking at the sugar grains that fell to the ground due to his rough movements, he felt both distressed and regretful. What a waste. Such brown sugar should be carefully stored in ceramics. "Waitress Yu, where did you get this brown sugar?" Tong, the shopkeeper, picked up the sugar grains one by one in his palm and asked about their origins in a roundabout way. There were only 50 or 60 kilograms of brown sugar in the backpack. If it was a one-time deal, as long as Lin Yu told him the seller, he could give a few more taels of tea money. "To be honest with you, Uncle Tong, this is made using my family's unique secret method." After Lin Yu said this, shopkeeper Tong was no longer busy picking up sugar grains. First, he looked at the door, and then silently gestured to the private room on the second floor. It was clear at a glance that he was going to close the door to discuss business. Lin Yu saw that he took it so seriously, but he didn't show it on his face, and he was very happy in his heart. It seems that the price of brown sugar can be higher than he expected. When he arrived at the private room, shopkeeper Tong closed the door and asked mysteriously, "You boy, how many kilograms of this brown sugar do you have?" "At least 10,000 kilograms of brown sugar can be supplied in half a month. Wild sugarcane has a limited growth cycle, and it will all turn into brown in half a month. If you buy sweet sugarcane, the raw materials are too expensive, and the money from selling sugar today cannot be used up. You can mass produce, but you can't take too big a step. After all, the less capital accumulation, the greater the risk of trial and error." Even so, when Tong, the shopkeeper, heard the number of 10,000 jin, he was still excited and took Lin Yu's hand to sit down. Yu, who came up with the recipe for making brown sugar. I was inspired by my father making maltose, and I tried many times before summing it up. Tong nodded with satisfaction. Yu was smart and hardworking, and Lao Lin could rest in peace if he had a spirit in heaven. This time he carefully uncovered the linen cloth, poked his fingers into it, pinched a small handful and put it in his mouth. To make sure that the sugar in the whole basket was fine, he smiled with wrinkles all over his face and pulled the basket into his arms. I want all of these. 1 jin will be calculated as 1 tael of silver first, and then the price will be increased after the guests give feedback. Chen Jianyang and Yang Wei looked at each other and saw surprise in each other's eyes. 1 tael of silver for 1 jin of sugar, my husband is as good as a god. Red sugar is unique and limited in quantity. Lin Yu believes that in time, the price will rise. I'll listen to Uncle Tong. There are a total of 40 jin in the backpack. Uncle Tong can weigh it to see if it's enough. It's easier to get things done with acquaintances. Tong smiled even more kindly and immediately took out a 50 liang silver note and put it on the table. No need to weigh it. Take the silver note. How long will it take for you to deliver the candy next time? 3 days later, but this 50 liang silver note is not enough. Not enough? Under the stunned gaze of Tong, Chen Jianyang and Yang Wei, who couldn't wait, put the 10 jin of silver in their hands on the table. Uncle Tong, there are still 20 jin here. You won't think it's too much, right? Lin Yu smiled teasingly. Too much. Such rare brown sugar is only too little, not too much. Tong quickly took out 2 5 liang silver notes and stuffed them into Lin Yu's hand. It's not too much, you wazi, you have grown up. I have to tell the boss this good news. 3 days later, I will send a car to Shilin village myself. See you there. Putting the silver note in his arms, he exchanged a few words, and the 3 of them left Qingjiang restaurant. Lin Yu walked towards the market according to his memory. Behind him, Chen Jianyang and Yang Wei looked down at their empty hands, feeling like they had a dream. Everything seemed so unreal. Brother Lin, did we really make 60 taels of silver in 3 days? 2 days to be exact. Lin Yu took out 2 5-tael silver notes and gave them to the 2 of them. The 2 of them had lived so long, let alone touched the silver note, it could almost be said that it was the first time they had seen it. Who would have thought that when they had just arrived in Shilin village 2 days ago, they were still worried about not being able to pay the 500 wen tax, but now they actually had a 5-tael silver note in their hands. Yang Wei covered the silver note to her chest, and all kinds of food flashed through her mind, and she kept swallowing her saliva. Chen Jianyang was also very happy, but she still returned the banknote to Lin Yu. My husband, you are the head of the family, and the money is earned by you. It is more appropriate to give it to you for safekeeping. I will take care of the big money, and the small money is your pocket money, spend it as you like. Without waiting for Chen Jianyang to refuse again, Lin Yu stepped into the cloth shop. First, he bought 3 sets of clothes for the 3 people. They didn't choose expensive ones, and fine linen fabrics would be fine, but they had to be neat and tidy. Today, you can be casual when meeting Uncle Tong, but you must maintain basic etiquette when meeting the owner of the restaurant tomorrow. Chen Jianyang and Yang Wei in new clothes became more beautiful and eye-catching, causing men on the street to look back from time to time and ask which family the young lady was. Lin Yu could only hold 1 wife in each hand to continue shopping, so as not to be looked at. He bought 2 more sets of sheets and quilts, and piled them on a full table. Maybe the atmosphere of the nouveau riche was too obvious, the shopkeeper suggested renting a bullock cart. Including the car rental fee, a total of 4 taels of silver were spent. As long as you spend it sparingly, this money is really easy to spend. Lin Yu's sigh made Yang Wei purse her lips and smile constantly, and Chen Jianyang was about to speak but stopped. But none of them, who regarded their husbands as the sky, stopped Lin Yu from squandering money. After renting a car, he started to make a lot of purchases. He bought 10 iron pots, 20 rolls of mats for making sugar, tea, rice, oil, salt, and half a pig. Until the half-foot square ox cart could not accommodate anyone, Lin Yu shook the cloth bag filled with silver, and there were still 20 taels left. Jianyang, Xiao Wei, are you tired? There is no room in the car, why not rent another? Husband, we are not tired, we can just walk back, and we can help push the cart. Chen Jianyang hurriedly interrupted his idea of spending another 20 cents to rent a car. Lin Yu looked into the eyes of the staggering old ox and saw its resentful eyes.
Looking at the two wives' painful expressions, they spent 20 cents to buy 2 trays of meat buns on the roadside and ate them while walking home. It was dark when they returned to Shilin village. They didn't meet anyone on the road. They lived in a remote place, so it was difficult to find someone to help them unload the things. After moving the things, they boiled the pork into oil residue and sealed it in a pottery jar, and put everything in order. The moon was already hanging in the south sky. Go to sleep. Lin Yu didn't hesitate tonight and fell asleep on the wooden bed. Chen Jianyang and Yang Wei looked at each other, washed up simply, and climbed onto the bed quietly. Although they were exhausted today, they felt unprecedented happiness. Especially Lin Yu, who was squeezed in the middle, was still laughing in his dream. Because of his indecent sleeping posture, his hands and feet were always touching Chen Jianyang dishonestly. Chen Jianyang gave him a warning, but she was reluctant to wake him up and ask him to change his position. She could only take the initiative to close the distance between the two and hug the dishonest hands. Finally, she slept soundly. The night gradually faded away. Even if Chen Jianyang was tired yesterday, she subconsciously woke up and thought about going to work in the fields as soon as it was light outside. The warm palm on her chest made her dazed. Seeing Lin Yu's sleeping profile, she remembered that she was married and no longer had to work like a slave for her family. She took Lin Yu's hand and put it on her face, wanting to continue sleeping in. A burst of hurried footsteps came, and someone outside was knocking hard on the door. Dong, dong, dong. You, it's bad. The third aunt took your land deed to the village entrance and said that she would use your 2 mu of paddy field to pay off your single tax of 1 tael of silver. Chapter 9. Send a few more wives to the fool. Lin Yu, who was sleeping soundly, was awakened. He opened his eyes and looked at the straight mountains, then looked up at the sky outside, and secretly complained. Chen Fangju was usually as lazy as a pig. She would not wake up until the meal was on the table, but she was quite active in cheating people. Jiao Niang, you and Xiao Wei sleep for a while, and my third brother and I will go to get our land deed back. It's time to settle the bad debts owed to the original owner. At the entrance of the east village, Chen Fangju slapped her thigh and cursed loudly. Chen Jianyang, the unlucky star, owed the single tax to the county government, and married Yu Warzi with the debt. My poor silly nephew, if he can't pay the tax today, he will be dragged to perform corvée. I have no choice but to sell his paddy field for money. Many villagers knew that Chen Fangju was taking advantage of the situation and it was not fair to buy Lin Yu's 2 acres of good paddy field with 1 or 2 taels of silver. But the cause of the incident was Chen Jianyang. Compared with offending the village head's wife, they were more willing to blame the foreign wife. This unlucky star is really powerful. Fortunately, I didn't go to their house to give a gift the day before yesterday, otherwise I would be unlucky today. Who said it wasn't? Yu Warzi is really pitiful. He finally got married, but he ended up being a debt collector. Amid the cold words of the crowd, Lin Shifeng rented a bullock cart carrying the 2 Yarman runners who came last time and rushed to their village entrance. Tilder. Lin Shifeng stopped the ox cart, untied the rope and pulled the ox to the edge of the field to eat grass. He smiled and led the 2 Yarman runners to the paddy field. 2 officials, I have prepared the silver. You will go to Lin Yu's house later, and we will go back to the county to transfer the land deed. The 2 Yarman runners who received the benefits were happy to do a favor. But seeing the 2 good paddy fields, they couldn't help but have evil thoughts. Village Chief Lin, does your silly nephew have only 2 acres of paddy fields at home? Why do you ask this, sir? There are still many old girls left this month. Why not send a few wives to the fool next month to help us solve our problems? The superiors gave the Yarman runners in charge of matching the number of matches. In addition, the county magistrate was pressing for taxes, so the 2 Yarman runners thought of stuffing all the girls who were not wanted to the fool. Maybe he could learn from Lin Shifeng and cut the fool's flesh with his left hand and right hand. Lin Shifeng saw through their thoughts, raised his sleeves to wipe the sweat, and smiled awkwardly. Yu Warzi's family only has these 2 acres of paddy fields, no more. HMPH, what are you still dawdling about? We are still busy paying taxes and transferring ownership. The 2 Yarman runners who couldn't get any money changed their faces faster than turning a book. Without waiting for Lin Shifeng to lead the way, they walked west side by side. After walking a few steps, they saw a boy wearing a blue gown, full of bookishness, and a dark and thin young man coming towards them. Because their boy had a good temperament,
the two of them couldn't help but take a second look. Just one look, the two of them were shocked. Isn't this the stupid nephew of village chief Lin? Lin Yu didn't see his face clearly against the light, but he recognized the bright uniform on the Yarman runner, so he took the initiative to step forward and take the initiative. Two officials, are you here to collect the single tax from my wives Chen Jianyang and Yang Wei? Yes. The two were surprised to see Lin Yu speak fluently without any stupidity. Lin Yu, are you not stupid anymore? Thanks to the two officials for sending me two wives, I am happy and my stupidity is gone. Lin Yu bowed and performed a literary etiquette. The two Yarman runners were shocked and hurriedly clasped their fists in return. Suddenly they remembered that Lin Yu was a student before, and their faces changed slightly. They forced the unlucky star and the little girl who were not wanted in Donghu Bay to be Lin Yu's wives the day before yesterday. After this kid is no longer stupid, I am afraid he will settle accounts with them. Maybe he will even return the two wives to Donghu Bay. Lin Yu, whether you are stupid or not, it is unreasonable to give back the wife you married. You must pay back the taxes your wife owes. Dare to make trouble, believe it or not, we will arrest you and take you to the county jail. The threat of the Yarman runners made Shasanj, who reported the news, clench his fists, stand up and block Lin Yu. The officials will arrest people in Shilin village if they can't collect the money. Come and have a look, folks. Lin Yu is a fool. He has not been in touch with the villagers in recent years, and no one helps him when he encounters trouble. But when Shasanj spoke, the villagers who were watching nearby, and the families who were on good terms with him, came over one after another. They surrounded the two Yarman runners. When they encountered many villagers who could not pay the single tax and were willing to confront the county government in large numbers, the Yarman runners did not dare to confront them head-on. They could only drag their feet and be scolded by the county magistrate for not collecting the money, so as to avoid being beaten. When they gave the two difficult-to-marry girls in Donghu Bay to the fool, they were sure that no one would help the fool. As a result, they shot themselves in the foot. The two Yarman runners shouted angrily at Lin Shifeng. Village Chief Lin, you asked us to collect taxes. Why don't you say anything at this time? Lin Shifeng was stunned by the news that Lin Yu was not stupid. He didn't know which ancestral grave was smoking. Just thinking about the abuse of Lin Yu over the years, the Yarman runner's request for help made him come back to his senses and his scalp numbed. Lin Yu was not stupid. 2 acres of paddy fields were wasted. If the tax could not be collected, the county would reprimand him for poor management and offend the Yarman runners. Just when Lin Shifeng was in trouble, Chen Fangju, who followed him into the encirclement, threw a high hat at the top of his voice. It is natural to pay the taxes owed. Our Yu-boy has passed the Tongshin exam. He will not be unreasonable, right, Yu-boy? Fearing that Lin Yu would cancel the marriage, Chen Fangju did not forget to threaten him. You married a wife, they are yours in life and your ghosts in death. If you don't care about them, you are forcing them to die. 1 tael of silver for 2 wives, it's worth it. No matter what, Chen Fangju will let the Yarman runners collect the arrears of taxes today. By the 2 acres of good land that she has been thinking about for many years, so that she can find a wife for her own sanwa. A shrew's mouth can kill people without a knife. For the first time, Lin Shifeng looked up to his wife's sharp words, and he quickly agreed. You are a scholar, you can't break the law knowingly. Third uncle knows that your family has no money to pay taxes. Don't worry, third uncle will pay for you. Third uncle and aunt, you are not giving it for free, but you want to use 1 tael of tax silver to exchange for my family's 10 taels of silver paddy fields. This is your real purpose. Lin Yu pointed out the couple's calculations in one sentence, leaving them without even a pair of underwear. The villagers looked at Lin Shifeng and his wife with contempt and disgust. If I had known that this family had received the money for entrusting the orphan but did not do the right thing, they would not only embezzle the money, but also plot against the family property of the fool. Who would dare to be a relative of such a person in the future? Although the villagers did not say anything due to the power of the village chief, the silent condemnation still made Lin Shifeng's face hot and angry. Let's talk about family matters in private, but the tax silver cannot be collected today. You boy, you can only follow the official to do corvée to repair the mountain road. It takes 2 acres of paddy fields, or your life. If it were a fool, he would still worry that Lin Yu would not know how to choose. Now that Lin Yu is no longer a fool, he is not worried. With Lin Shifeng's help, the 2 Yarman runners pressed the swords on their waists at the right time, looking ferocious, as long as Lin Yu said no. they would take him down on the spot. Lin Yu saw that Lin Shifeng had lost all face, and the villagers also understood the evil deeds of the couple. The goal was achieved, and he smiled calmly at the two Yarman runners who were on edge. Since I can afford to marry a wife, I can naturally pay taxes for them. Not to mention 1 or 2 taels of silver, I can also take out 10 taels of silver. You are so arrogant, you toad swallow the sky. Chen Fangju mocked, your family is so poor that even the wall is almost eaten by rats, and you can still take out silver. Even if you borrow, you can't get it together in a short time. Chapter 10 Bring it. Not to mention that Lin Yu had always been a fool before, who would be willing to lend him money. Chen Fangju only thought that Lin Yu was pretending, and didn't believe a word he said. Who said I can't take it out? Lin Yu took out a cloth bag filled with silver from his arms. He pinched a piece of broken silver from the cloth bag and deliberately shook the white silver in front of Chen Fangju. Chen Fangju, who was just acting weird, almost popped her eyes out when she saw the silver, and was shocked and angry. She had clearly plundered Lin Yu's house after her second brother died. Where did Lin Yu get so much silver? Lin Yu didn't rush to explain, holding the silver in his palm and extending his other hand to the Yarman runner. Here is 1 tael of silver, where is the tax deed? All taxes submitted to the Yarman are proved by tax deed. The two Yarman runners fixed their eyes on the cloth bag for a moment. They didn't say hello to Lin Shifeng, and immediately took out the tax deed that Chen Zhenyang and Yang Wei needed to pay from their arms and handed it to Lin Yu. A fool can bully at will, but a scholar who can take out 10 taels of silver cannot be neglected. Lin Yu took the tax deed and checked it, then threw 1 tael of silver to the Yarman runner. Thank you for coming all the way here. Are there anything else for you two officials to do in Shilin village? If there is nothing else, leave quickly. He winked at Shasanj, who stared at the two Yarman runners with a fierce look. The other villagers thought that the two Yarman runners had teamed up with Lin Shifeng to bully fellow villagers, and looked at them with unfriendly eyes. The two Yarman runners who had successfully obtained the silver thought that they had gotten up early on purpose, waiting for Lin Shifeng to treat them to a drink after the matter was completed. Looking at the current situation, they could not drink their wine. It is difficult for an honest official to judge family affairs. They were afraid that Lin Shifeng would say that they would help transfer the land deeds, and they would not get the mutton but get into trouble. The two Yarman runners snatched the whip from Lin Shifeng's hand, and without even saying goodbye, they drove the yellow cattle that had not yet eaten their fill away. They moved too fast, and when Chen Fangju reacted, she was so anxious that she pushed Lin Shifeng. Boss, why don't you go after the official? The land deed hasn't been transferred yet. Seeing that the paddy field she had been thinking about for many years was gone, Chen Fangju was planning to occupy it openly. She was shameless, and Lin Yu took the opportunity to tear her face off, telling the villagers around him about the couple's abuse of him. My third uncle's family coaxed me to go to the mountains to dig wild vegetables in spring, tricked me into weeding under the scorching sun in summer, tricked me into digging squirrel nests in autumn, and made me take cold showers in winter. Use me as a coolie, never let me eat at the table, and starve me for 6 meals in 3 days. Use the silver given by my father to build a wing room, and not a grain of rice harvested from the 2 acres of paddy fields goes into my stomach. Lin Yu became more and more angry as he spoke, and couldn't help trembling all over. There was a raging fire burning in his eyes, staring straight at the guilty Lin Shifeng and Chen Fangju who didn't care. You boy, you must have remembered it wrongly. You have had several illnesses and have spent all the money. We are uncle and nephew, how could I harm you? Lin Shifeng still wanted to quibble. Lin Yu, who had long seen through the nature of this evil relative, did not want to talk about feelings with them at all. He stepped forward and stretched out his hand to Chen Fangju. Bring the land deed here, or I will report it to the police. You dare. Chen Fangju stuffed the land deed into her arms, and then lay on the ground and rolled around, slapping the ground and crying. Fellow villagers, come and see this unfilial nephew quickly. When he was stupid, my family served him well. Now this Yu boy who has been paid tens of millions is not stupid anymore. He turned his face and refused to recognize people. He also wanted to report us to the police. I just planted seeds for these 2 acres of paddy fields and carefully took care of them for several years. Otherwise, they would have been barren long ago. At this point, Chen Fangju looked at the cloth bag in Lin Yu's hand, and her fat face was full of greed. Lin Yu understood her plot at once. Ansan means that I want the land deed and I have to compensate you for your wages. You have a conscience, so I won't ask for more. Give me 1, 5, no, you have to give me all the silver in the bag. People are always greedy. At this time, Chen Fangju knew that the paddy field could not be transferred, and she just wanted to find a reason to get the silver in Lin Yu's hand first. Since she built the wing room and married her second daughter-in-law, she has saved for 3 years and has not saved a few taels of silver. How can she be willing to watch Lin Yu own a bag of broken silver behind her back? Those should be hers. Lin Yu was amused by this robber's theory and looked at Lin Shifeng. Do you think I should give this money, Uncle San? Lin Shifeng was also jealous of the silver in Lin Yu's hand, but the villager's contentious eyes made his back cold, and he couldn't bring himself to make a scene like his wife. He could only stand by coldly and silently support his wife. The villagers did not dare to offend the uncle and nephew, but it did not stop them from fanning the flames. 2 mu of paddy fields are worth 10 taels of silver in total. The silver in Yuwar's cloth bag sounds like it is more than 10 taels. No matter how much taels, he has been stupid for 2.5 years. The village chief's family has raised him. Even if he has no merit, he has worked hard. I think this silver should be given. Who among them is not jealous of Lin Yu, who suddenly became rich? Anyway, if it is not given to the village chief's family, it will not reach their hands. Only Shisanj was simple-minded. Hearing what they said, he was so angry that he retorted. What do you want to give? Yuwarzi, you can't give silver even if you report them to the authorities for robbing the land deed. If my mother hadn't asked me to help you from time to time, you would have starved to death on New Year's Eve 2 years ago. The support of Shisanj, a cousin from the same village, undoubtedly confirmed the fact that Lin Shifeng's family abused his nephew. Lin Shifeng's face was red, and he stammered and could not refute. Chen Fangju, lying on the ground, pointed to the west and started to curse. A daughter who is married off is like water spilled out. How can a cousin like you really help Yuwarzi? I didn't see you when I gave the money. You got rich and you got to share the money. You deserve your son to be dead or disabled. Lin Yu couldn't stand it anymore when Chen Fangju poked at his aunt. He stopped Shisanj, who wanted to hit him, and poured all the silver in the bag into his hand. He held a handful of silver and gave it to the jealous villagers, sighing. Alas! Actually, this money was given by Tong, the shopkeeper of Qingjiang restaurant, who wanted me to make brown sugar. Make brown sugar? The villagers didn't understand, but it sounded related to food. In addition, Lin's father was the second chef of Qingjiang restaurant before his death, so they guessed. Lin Yu earned his money by making food. But it had nothing to do with them, and they still had the mentality of watching the fun. Some people couldn't help but say something sour. Yuwarzi is indeed a student who passed the exam. He can't lift anything with his hands or shoulders, but he has a flexible mind. If he hadn't been stupid for these years, he would have become the richest man in the village. Don't hide the opportunity to make a fortune. Take us with you. Next time the Yarman runners come to trouble you, we can help you. Lin Yu smiled secretly. Will it be necessary next time? He deliberately showed off his wealth just now, just to borrow the power of the villagers to deal with the village chief's prestigious and vicious relative. Chapter 11: The Power of Unity. Brothers, uncles, mothers-in-law, aunts, you can make brown sugar in the restaurant, but I took the silver home on purpose, just to share the silver with everyone. One stone caused 1,000 waves. The villagers who were still watching the joke just now looked at Lin Yu with suspicion. Who has a way to make money and would think of sharing it with others to make money together? Is there too much money to burn? Even Chen Fangju, who was lying on the ground and making a fuss, heard that there was silver to share, and sat up with a roll, waiting eagerly for Lin Yu's next words. Only Shisanj heard this and thought of Lin Yu asking him to go to the mountains to find wild sugarcane, and seemed to understand. Lin Yu saw that everyone's attention was focused on him, so he didn't keep it a secret and stretched out his right index finger. I plan to buy wild sugarcane from the villagers at the price of 1 penny and 5 sticks. Buy wild sugarcane from them for 1 penny and 5 sticks? Although wild sugarcane grows in the mountains and its location is not fixed, it is not uncommon. As long as you are willing to put in the effort, even an ordinary woman can find dozens or hundreds of sugar canes in a day. A lame old man over 50 years old asked on behalf of everyone, Yuwarzi, you can't fool fourth grandpa, are you really collecting wild sugar cane? I will. Lin Yu answered decisively. There are a lot of wild sugar canes in the mountains of Shilin village. No matter whether they are sour or sweet, as long as they are not brown, I will take them. 5 pieces are 1 penny. As he said, he took out 2 taels of silver from the cloth bag and stuffed it into the hands of Shasanj, who looked confused. Sanj, the thousands of wild sugar canes I asked you to find the day before yesterday, you will find someone to move them to my yard later, and then ask the eldest aunt and cousins to help set up the stove and watch the fire. The eldest aunt and cousins watch the fire for 4 hours a day, and each person will be paid 8 cents. If there are not enough people, find someone else. No verbal agreement is as effective as real money. When the villagers saw the 2 taels of silver in Shasanj's hand, their eyes were red with envy. Many people thought of Shasanj's 2 days of taking a hemp rope to the mountains and forests and collecting a lot of wild sugarcane. At that time, they laughed at others for collecting wild sugarcane without anyone to collect, and it became chaff and was smoked and choked when it was taken home for firewood. Only then did they realize that Shasanj was close to the water and got the moon first. Being close to Lin Yu, he seized the opportunity to make money. If I had known, I would have sent a gift the day before yesterday. Yu was his father and I are cousins. I held him when he was holding his first birthday. The people in Shilin village are either surnamed Shi or Lin. They have been related for hundreds of years. They have the same ancestor. What kind of relatives are they? We are all relatives of Yuwarzi, otherwise he would think of us when he got rich. The villagers around praised Lin Yu with all their heart. All their words of benevolence and morality came out. From time to time, a greeting of "You, I want to go to your house to light the fire, can I?" popped up. 8 cents for burning the fire for 4 hours, even if it is a short-term job, it is better to go to the city to carry bags and sell hard labor so close to home. What's more, women and old people can do this. Lin Yu, who was surrounded by the enthusiastic greetings, squeezed out a sweat on his forehead and hurriedly greeted loudly. In addition to burning the fire, there are other things that need help. Don't worry, everyone, I will get the land deed first, and we will recruit people to start work immediately. Chen Fangju, who was sitting on the ground, was still thinking about sending her daughter-in-law and little daughter to Lin Yu's house to work. Suddenly hearing the word land deed, she wanted to lie on the ground. Someone was faster than her and supported her. Turning her head, she saw the grey-haired aunt smiling kindly. Shifeng family, sit tight. My arm just broke last year. Don't let you break it again. I can only go to your house to eat, drink, defecate and urinate. 2 new brides from Donghuan who came to the village last year squatted in front of her and put their little hands in her arms. Aunt, where is the land deed? Take it out quickly. Everyone is waiting to work and make money. I dare not let you delay it alone. Lin Yu's field was cultivated by you for 3 years, and his father gave you 10 taels of silver. Even if you eat brown rice every meal, you can't finish it in 3 years. In fact, the people present knew who was right and who was wrong between the uncle and nephew. Just now, no one helped them to clean up the snow in front of their own door. No one wanted to offend the village chief's family. But now Lin Yu wants to take them to make money, and the village chief has to stand aside. Chen Fangju, who has always been famous for her slapping, has never encountered a situation where a dozen elders and juniors surrounded her to rob her things. She was annoyed and frightened, and screamed in the direction where Lin Shifeng was standing. Boss, help me hide the land deed quickly, and never give it back to Lin Yu, this little bastard. However, Lin Shifeng was powerless. He was surrounded by a wall of people formed by several strong young men, blocking his way. He could only watch his cousin Tier Chen Fangju's coat and take out the land deed through a gap that even mice could not get through. Handed it to Lin Yu. No need to fight with the shrew himself, the land deed was easily obtained. Lin Yu bowed to the old lady who was over 50 years old and still strong. Thank you, cousin. We are one family, why are we talking so differently? I will go up the mountain to cut wild sugarcane for your family. The mountain road is too slippery. Cousin is strong and careful. Why don't you go to my house to squeeze juice? As long as you are willing to work, their wages are higher than burning firewood. Hearing this, Aunt Sha smiled from ear to ear and nodded repeatedly. Lin Shifeng saw that the land deed was taken away and his wife was pressed to the ground and couldn't move. His face was gloomy. He was about to reprimand Lin Yu in person. Several elders present glanced at him, and the oldest old man in the village spoke quietly. Shifeng, Grandpa Wu didn't want to say anything to you, but you didn't do this to you. Everyone elected you as the village chief because they hope you can help the village, not to let you bully your own people. For a while. All the villagers present glared at Lin Shifeng with a common hatred. Fortunately, Shasan's family often helped Lin Yu, so Lin Yu didn't starve to death before his stupidity was cured. Otherwise, their Shilin village would have lost a way to make money. This account must be put on the head of Lin Shifeng's family. Lin Shifeng, who has been the village chief for many years, how could he not understand that these people have been wearing pants with Lin Yu? Even if he was unwilling in his heart, he could only bow his head and admit his mistakes at this time, otherwise his career as village chief would be over. Fifth grandfather is right, I will definitely teach my wife a lesson when I go back. I was busy with the affairs of the village and didn't take care of you Warzi. A virtuous wife will cause less trouble. In the future, don't let your wife get involved in the affairs of the Lin family. You Warzi, do you think this is okay? Fifth grandfather spoke, and Lin Yu could only give the other party a face and nodded gently. Taking back the land deed is only the first step. In the future, he will let this couple suffer even more tragic retribution in this life. Seeing that Lin Yu knew the limits, Master Lin Wu stroked his beard with satisfaction and waved to the people who held Chen Fangju. They stood up quickly, and several juniors pulled Chen Fangju up together. Who knew that Chen Fangju, who had never failed in her tantrums, was thinking about the handful of silver? Not only did she not get up, but she lay down on the open ground. She slapped the ground and just howled a day. Par. Chapter 12 Unappreciative. Lin Shifeng slapped her face hard, and immediately a red 5 fingers mountain appeared. Go home and make a scene if you want to, don't embarrass yourself in front of the elders. Do you want to ruin the reputation of our family alone? Although Lin Shifeng was cruel to his silly nephew, he had never hit Chen Fangju. Chen Fangju was stunned when he beat her for the first time. She was carried up like a zombie and dragged home. When she was almost at the door of her house, she heard earth-shaking crying. Lin Shifeng, you are not a man for watching your wife being bullied without saying anything. Lin Shifeng knew that he would not be able to explain himself when he returned home. He regretted not listening to his wife and killing Lin Yu, the fool, earlier. At this time, he could only bite the bullet and walk in front of Lin Yu, praising him with a fake smile. Yu is a promising boy. He has a family and a career. Uncle San admires you from the bottom of his heart. Admire? Lin Yu sneered silently, envy and jealousy are written all over your face. A vicious relative who has been the village chief for many years and deliberately came to show his kindness to the younger generation must have done something wrong. You boy, third uncle also wants to do something to make up for your mistakes. How about I take your aunt to guard for you at night to prevent thieves from stealing into the yard? We are all family, so you don't have to pay for their wages. It sounds better than singing. Lin Yu didn't want to lead the thief into their house, so he didn't even give him a little face and exposed his shortcomings in public. Third uncle, have you forgotten that third aunt stole my mother's jewelry and was punished to kneel by grandmother? In addition to being vicious, Chen Fangju also had dirty hands and feet. Everyone in the village knew it. Lin Yu felt that if he let Lin Shifeng help at this moment. The thieves haven't come yet, but the red sugar will definitely be stolen. Lin Shifeng saw that he didn't know how to appreciate it, so he simply played the victim to Lin Wutei. Fifth grandpa, you see, you boy still thinks I abused him and refused to forgive me. Without waiting for Lin Wutei to speak to smooth things over, Lin Yu suddenly changed the subject. Qingjiang restaurant will collect brown sugar in 3 days. If something goes wrong, our village can only cut wild sugarcane for 3 days, boil sugar for 3 days, and earn money for 3 days. It concerns their whole village, so I have to be careful. In this way, there is no need for Lin Wutei to speak. The villagers have stepped forward and surrounded Lin Shifeng. Shasanj took the responsibility directly, not giving Lin Shifeng the opportunity to show his courtesy. Uncle San, you are a busy man, so you don't have to guard the door. My house is close to Yuwa's house, and there are 2 big wolf dogs. We will definitely not let thieves sneak in. Wolf dogs are better at guarding the house than people. Lin Yu and Shasanj exchanged glances and secretly gave a thumbs up. And when Lin Shifeng saw that his plan failed, he left angrily, cursing constantly. Unfilial nephew, you are doing good for me but you don't appreciate it. You have lost your conscience and still want to make a lot of money. Let's wait and see. Lin Yu looked at him like this, he should not give up yet. Even Shasanj whispered to him, will the third uncle and his friends do bad things secretly? Let's do it. When the enemy comes, the generals will cover it, and when the water comes, the earth will cover it. The accounts have not been settled yet,
he is still worried that Lin Shifeng and his wife will become turtles after the setbacks, and there will be no chance for him to catch them. What a hammer! The troublemaker couple left one after another. Lin Yu was immediately overwhelmed by the aunts and uncles who came after hearing the news. There are only 10 pots in my family that can boil sugar, and only 10 groups of people, 4 people in each group. 1 person for peeling and squeezing juice, 1 person for watching the fire and stirring the sugar, and their wages are paid according to the amount of work. As for how to mix lime water into the pot, and control the temperature after the sugar is made to make the sugar sand. This is the most important part of the unique secret recipe. In the era without patent protection, it must be controlled by the family and cannot be delegated to others. In addition to the workers who boil sugar, there are also people who help with miscellaneous tasks. Lin Yu recruited 40 people on the spot, and the remaining quotas were all given to Shasanj. It's okay if you can't come to boil sugar, you can go to cut wild sugarcane. In addition, I only collect wild sugarcane from our villagers. Hearing this point specifically raised by Lin Yu, those with quick minds have already discovered new business opportunities. Those with dull minds also reacted after thinking about it at home. Wild sugarcane is not a specialty of Shilin village. There are a lot of them in the surrounding mountains and forests. 5 sticks for 1 penny is the price Lin Yu offered to fellow villagers. They can collect 10 sticks for 1 penny or lower it to sell them to Lin Yu. In addition to ensuring quality, you need to pay more attention, transfer from one hand to the other, and easily make a profit from the price difference. Yuwazi is really the money-bringing boy of our Shilin village. What boy? His 2 wives have already become 2 grooms. It's a pity that the wild sugarcane will be husked in half a month, otherwise our village will definitely become the richest village in the surrounding area this year, and the girls will definitely compete to marry in Shilin village. While they can make money, no one wants to fall behind. They went to neighboring villages with their relatives and friends to find familiar people to collect wild sugarcane. The villagers who fell behind were not panicked, and they squatted in front of the slope, waiting to transport wild sugarcane. Anyway, they all carried bags, and they could take care of their wives and children at the door of their own house. If they carried a few more trips for their own family, they would earn more than outside. Lin Yu specifically pointed out the way to make money by collecting wild sugarcane in order to make more sugar in a limited time. It can save time and energy, and also sell a favor to Shilin village. No matter where you make a living, you should pay attention to human relationships. Third brother, take the silver and find a few more strong workers, and give them an extra 10 cents a day to cut and transport sugarcane. Hurry up. Okay, I'll listen to you. Third brother Sha clutched 2 taels of silver and ran home happily. Mother will be very happy if she knows that Yuwazi is not stupid, but also sees the true face of the third uncle's family and can make a lot of money. Lin Yu, who has arranged everything, walked home slowly. 10 steps away from home, he looked up and saw the curling smoke rising from his own house, and sniffed it carefully. The food smelled fragrant, and it also smelled of meat. After working outside, it feels great to have a wife to eat hot meals when I come home. Push open the door. Chen Jianyang moved the tables and chairs bought yesterday to the yard, and Yang Wei filled the pot with rice porridge. For breakfast, he only boiled 3 eggs and fried a pot of spring bamboo shoots and pork slices. Since Lin Yu was not used to brown rice, he bought only refined rice, so the porridge was a little watery. Except for the sticky rice in the bowl in front of him, half of the rice porridge in the 2 bowls was water. Jianiang, our family will live better and better, don't be too frugal with food. Yang Wei couldn't help but refute him before Chen Jianiang spoke. Brother Lin, do you think such a breakfast is frugal in your eyes? Didn't Brother Lin say that he couldn't eat enough before? How come from what he said, in their opinion, the breakfast that was more abundant than the New Year's Day was very shabby? Frugality is relative. We can eat less when we don't work, but of course we have to eat more when we work. The more we earn, the better we eat. After Lin Yu explained, he saw that the 2 looked unconvinced, and knew that they had lived a hard life for too long. It's not enough to just talk, so he simply fried a pot of crispy meat with refined flour. As long as the appetites of the wives are kept, are you still afraid that they won't eat well? Eat quickly, the villagers will come to light the fire soon. Today will be busier than the previous 2 days. Chen Jianyan, who was embarrassed to eat and drink, looked at Yang Wei and buried her head in eating. She ate faster than Lin Yu. The smell of meat drifted far away. Shi Qingzhu, who had just sobered up after drinking all night, was thinking about the beautiful dream of making love with his new wife last night. He walked through the slope that was particularly deserted than usual and stood at the gate of Lin Yu's house. He finally got a penny out of his crotch and thought about asking Chen Jianyang to go to the grass in the back mountain. The fragrance wafting from the yard made him drool uncontrollably. How can a fool boil lime water at home every day and boil meat? Chapter 13, Burning with Vigor. Shi Qingzhu pulled at the wooden door and peeked out curiously. When he saw the food on the table, his jaw almost dropped to the ground. Am I still dreaming? Otherwise, how could a fool like me eat crispy meat and drink rice porridge? Who? Lin Yu had just finished his meal and put down his bowl and chopsticks when he heard the sound and looked over. Seeing Shi Qingzhu wiping his saliva stealthily and walking into the yard with a dazed look in his eyes, he became furious. He could tolerate drooling over the food on the table, but he couldn't tolerate those eyes always looking at his girl's chest. Shi Qingzhu, you are a thief if you come in uninvited. Leave when I count to 3. Don't force me to hit you. It was really a dream, otherwise why would Lin Yu not be stupid enough to hit me? The drunk Shi Qingzhu, grinning lasciviously, threw himself into the arms of Chen Jianyang who was sitting at the dining table, not forgetting to reach out for the tender flesh. Not only do I want to sleep, I also want to eat. But with Lin Yu present, how could he fulfill his wish? He picked up a piece of wild sugarcane with the chaff removed and swung it at Shi Qingzhu. Fuck. It hurts, it hurts. Shi Qingzhu was beaten black and blue. He backed away repeatedly, protecting his head. Only then did he realize that he was not dreaming. This is reality. He retreated all the way to the gate. He felt that he was about to be beaten to death by Lin Yu. Just as he was about to call for help, he was hit again from behind. You Warzi, what's going on? Uncle Shi, someone tried to break into my house and steal something, but I beat him out. Come and give me a hand. Just as Lin Shifeng said we should be on guard against thieves, a thief broke in broad daylight. This is a slap in the face of Shilin village. Shilaosi, who was carrying a small bundle of wild sugarcane to build a stove, was ruthless in his attack. In no time, several bloody marks were left on Shi Qingzhu's back, and a bloody red soup was oozing out. Shi Qingzhu, who was stunned by the blow, shuddered in pain and sobered up completely. Uncle, don't hit me. It's me. Do you want to kill your own nephew? He grabbed a bundle of wild sugarcane with his backhand and beat the man even harder than Lin Yu. The pig-like face that was revealed made Shilaosi unable to recognize him for a moment. But after recognizing him, Shilaosi became even angrier. Qingzhu, it's not enough for you to just drink a lot of wine, why did you come to Yuaz's house to steal things? I didn't steal anything. Shi Qingzhu thought that he was indeed here to steal things, but he just wanted to steal people, so his eyes wandered. It looks more like a thief than a thief. Qingzhu, you stole things and went to Yuaz's house. You are going against the whole village. I must teach you a lesson. Shilaosi was afraid that because of Shi Qingzhu, his whole family would be implicated and unable to come to Lin Yu's house to work. He pulled out a piece of wild sugar cane and beat him even harder. Every time he struck, blood was drawn. Shi Qingzhu was beaten so hard that he covered his thighs and crotch, and ran away cursing. There was a lot of blood splattered on the ground. Lin Yu stood at the gate and saw that Shi Qingzhu was almost beheaded, without any sympathy. If we beat a scumbag like this who committed domestic violence to death with a stick, we can save food for Da Chang. It didn't take long before Shi Qingzhu escaped. The whole village knew that Shi Qingzhu went to Lin Yu's house to steal things and was caught red-handed. His fourth uncle beat him and made him run around the village. Even if I ran back home, I wouldn't be able to get out of bed for 3 to 5 days. Because of the mistake made by Shi Qingzhu, the relatives of the same clan who worked in Lin Yu's house could not raise their heads in front of everyone and could only rush to work, so as not to confuse them with Shi Qingzhu, the drunkard. After everyone arrived, Lin Yu briefly introduced the division of labor and requirements. Since you are working for me, you should put your mind at ease. The wages are paid daily, and the more you work, the more you earn. If you are busy and exhausted, you will be provided with a meal at noon. When people learned that they would also receive a meal, they worked harder. After Lin Yu arranged the workstations, he, Chen Jianyang and Yang Wei came to the eldest aunt's stove with a piece of cloth and a can of melon seed oil bought yesterday. Aunt Lin, who is over 50 years old, is directing the daughters-in-law in the family to build a stove. When people are happy,
They feel refreshed and their dark and thin cheeks are filled with rosy glow. Aunt, you take a rest first. Just keep an eye on the fire when we light it later. There is no rest after a lifetime of hard work. Aunt Lin put down the adobe brick in her hand and turned to look at Chen Jianyang and Yang Wei. The two of them wore new dresses today, one showed off her plump hips and big breasts, and the other was pretty and cute. Standing among this group of women, her skin looked as white as pearls, which made Aunt Lin envious and pleased. My lovely wife is so fertile, Xiao Wei is so cute, and you are so lucky, you Wazi. The two of them were so shy that their faces turned red. They called out softly, "Hello, Auntie," and presented the gifts they had prepared. Gifts are given and received, and favors are given and received. Aunt Lin did not refuse and smiled as she asked her dazzled eldest daughter-in-law to accept it. The eldest daughter-in-law, who had lost her husband and was a widow, often complained about her mother-in-law and supported the idiot orphan in her cousin's house. I always feel that this is like throwing a meat bun at a dog, which will never come back. Today I received a piece of cloth worth 1 or 2 taels of silver, and 20 pounds of lard mixed with meat. I smiled so hard that the corners of my mouth were almost reaching my ears. Mom, I'll pick out the meat tonight and give it to your grandchildren. Aunt Lin, who had never made up her mind at home, so that her eldest daughter-in-law was deliberately trying to please Lin Yu, so she didn't care about the previous disputes and responded with a smile. You decide on this matter. Then make some clothes for your eldest son for him to wear while he is in school. Aunt Lin straightened her back and felt extremely relieved. Lin Yu saw what they were thinking, and asked Jianyang to grab some melon seeds and peanuts to distribute to the people working as wedding candy. My eldest aunt packed a special basket and added some candies in it so that she could take it back home to satisfy the children's hunger. While distributing melon seeds, he also introduced the people from Shilin village to Jianyang and the others. It won't take half a day. When Lin Yu drank the freshly boiled brown sugar water, he saw Jianyang, Xiao Wei and the women and girls in the village, chatting and laughing while working. Only when she talked about her younger brother would she occasionally lose focus. He breathed a sigh of relief. That's great. It seems that Jianyang is not born depressed, but has become depressed after birth. I don't know what kind of a quiet environment the Chen family had to force such a kind and enthusiastic girl to become so patient and timid. I will ask Jianyang about her sick brother later. If this younger brother is a good person, it would not be a problem for him to bring him home, raise him well and help him find a future. It can not only relieve Jianyang's worries, but also completely separate her from her original family and give her more close relatives to help her. As for Xiao Wei, he looked at his young wife who did nothing but eat and work, and even his brother Lin had to sit in the back row, and began to think. What to eat for lunch? Because if you want to capture Xiao Wei's heart, you must first capture her stomach. East end of the village. Usually at noon in spring, when the water is slightly warm from the sun, the women of Shilin village always gather on the river bank to wash clothes. Then gossip about which young man made money and which wife cheated on someone. It was as lively as if there were thousands of mating ducks in the village. But today, except for the clanging noises coming from the village chief's house, the area around the riverbank was deserted, as if robbers had entered the village and looted it. Therefore, Chen Fangju's shouting voice was particularly clear. Chapter 14 Xiao Wei's new bed. Master, the paddy field cannot be transferred, and Lin Yu won't give the money. How can the third brother's marriage be negotiated? Tired of fighting, Chen Fangju sat on a bamboo chair with only 3 legs left, wiping her tears and saying through gnashing teeth. That bastard Lin Yu must be jealous that Sanwer is about to pass the exam and deliberately do bad things to our family. We must not let him off. Chen Fangju, who never looked for reasons in herself, felt more and more that this was the truth the more she talked about it. I was furious when I thought about the fact that I had an appointment with my future in-laws to come and see my fields today, but in the end I had to find an excuse to change the day. I wish I could go to Lin Yu's house right now and snatch all the silver and land deeds. Lin Shifeng thought about how Lin Yu had publicly refused his help and had deliberately mocked his family for being dishonest, and he also hated Lin Yu very much. But fifth grandpa's words made him worried. If he openly tripped Lin Yu up, his time as village chief would be over. He could only appease his wife first. Mother, Lin Yu is now a big celebrity in the village. Don't confront him head on. We need to think about this matter carefully. What about the long term? Landlord Chen's family just sent someone to our house to ask when the next visit to see the house and the fields will be. We can't delay this any longer. Landlord Chen's concubine gave birth to a daughter who was old enough to pay the single tax, and she was eager to get married. Since I can't settle down with his third child this time, I will immediately go discuss marriage with someone else's family. Lin Shifeng knew this truth very well. He was leaning against the doorpost and thinking, why not use the money from home to buy 2 acres of paddy fields to keep up appearances? But after buying the paddy field, you still have to pay a betrothal gift, and marrying a daughter-in-law is another expense. In addition, Sanwo will take the exam next month. After passing the exam, he will need to arrange for admission to a good academy. It would be great if Yuwarzi still recognized me as his uncle, and I could borrow money from him. Lin Shifeng's blurt-out words caused Chen Fangju to jump up and pick up a chair with a broken leg. It hit the ground next to him. Borrow your ass. His money should be used to honor us. The chair was smashed into pieces, leaving a big hole on the ground. Lin Shifeng was so scared that he didn't dare to breathe. At the same time, he did not dare to mention renewing his relationship with Lin Yu. The couple stared at each other, racking their brains to think of where to find the money. Until the door was suddenly pushed open with a clang, scaring the two of them. Third brother, third sister-in-law, your nephew Lin Yu beat my Qingzhu baby until he vomited blood. Do you care about this? Qingzhu Niang held 2 wild sugarcanes in her hands and poked them directly in front of the couple. They were so scared that they quickly snatched it away and asked what had happened. I learned that Lin Yu had provoked Qingzhu again and beat him so hard that he couldn't get out of bed. Chen Fangju immediately came up with an evil plan. She grabbed Qingzhu Niang's hand and added fuel to the fire. Mother Qingzhu, Lin Yu has grown too powerful and no longer recognizes your third brother and I as relatives. We cannot control the wrong things he does. But don't worry, if Qingzhu wants revenge, we will never side with Lin Yu. Qingzhu's mother was also worried that Lin Shifeng would take care of his wealthy nephew, so she used her prestige as the village chief to suppress the beating of her son. When he heard Chen Fangju say that she had drawn a clear line between herself and Lin Yu, he felt more confident when he remembered the rumors in the village that the uncle and nephew were at odds with each other. Since you don't care, sister-in-law, I'm going to ask Lin Yu for money to treat my son's injuries. To be able to raise a street urchin like Qingzhu, Qingzhu's mother must be a tough guy. Chen Fangju continued to fan the flames, saying that Lin Yu made a lot of money and couldn't ask for less. Qingzhu Niang, who had no breakfast and simply slept until noon, had her eyes sparkling green when she heard this. Originally I just wanted to ask for a few pounds of brown rice to make porridge for my son and have a few full meals, but now I want a few taels of silver to have full meals for a year. He didn't even take the wild sugarcane to exchange for money, and ran west in a hurry. Lin Shifeng and others ran away, shook their heads and said, "Wa's mother, many people in the village work for Lin Yu's family, and the one who beat him is Qingzhua's fourth uncle. It's not easy to ask for this money. It would be better if I can't get it. When Qingzhua can get out of bed, he will definitely not let Lin Yu go." Chen Fangju pinched her waist and snorted with pride. We need to let Qingzhua ruin Lin Yu's business of making money by making candy. It would be best if Lin Yu paid compensation to Qingjiang restaurant and went to court. When he goes to jail, won't we still be able to farm the fields in the village? You can't write 2 Lin characters with one stroke. Chen Jianyang and Yang Wei can't have a baby for a while. If we keep planting this land, won't we have 3 children? As long as something happens to Lin Yu, can Chen Jianyang and Yang Wei, 2 foreign daughters-in-law, still twist the thigh of him, the village chief? Lin Shifeng figured out the pros and cons of this, and excitedly hugged Chen Fangju and took a bite. My wife always has a lot of bad ideas. Qingzhua is drunk and his mind is not clear. Can he beat Lin Yu? Lin Shifeng didn't underestimate Qingzhua, it was just that this drunkard was a piece of useless mud. Chen Fangju rolled her eyes and smiled sinisterly. He has no idea, so how can I not have one? Master, you kindly reminded Lin Yu about the thief's theft. Didn't Sanwer say that he would use wolfhounds to guard the house? Speaking of this matter, Lin Shifeng really wanted to slap himself. If he had known that he was going to disrupt Lin Yu's money-making business, he shouldn't have reminded him so much. Otherwise, Qingzhua could take advantage of the dark night and find a few helpers to go down to the yard to steal things from Lin Yu's house, which would be easier. But Chen Fangju didn't mean to blame him at all. Instead, her smile deepened. Sanwer is willing to stand up for Lin Yu.
This time, let the elder sister-in-law's family know what it means to be a dog catching a mouse and meddling in other people's business. Mother, please tell me what to do. Lin Shifeng was so curious that he squatted down and put his ear close to Chen Fangju's show-off. Since it was the first day of firing, things were complicated and hectic. In order to deliver the sugar quantity on time, Lin Yu prepared a lunch. He scraped off the hard candy residue on the pot and steamed 5 large pots of white rice. He fried a pot of wild vegetables himself, and killed the old hen sent by his eldest aunt's family and stewed 2 large pots of broth. You Warzi, I know you've been good at studying since you were young, but I didn't expect you've learned cooking from your father. The food was so delicious that I almost swallowed it. Everyone praised Lin Yu again. Several young new brides cast envious glances at Chen Jianyang and Yang Wei, who did not even help with cooking. If they had known that the fools in Shilin village were so capable, they should have chosen to marry Lin Yu. From now on, they will be the ones who can eat meat every meal with Lin Yu. Now that they are married, they cannot remarry, so they can only turn envy into appetite and eat 2 more bowls of rice. Everyone, eat slowly. Eat until you are full and digest the food before continuing to work. There is no rush. In Lin Yu's view, it was just a makeshift lunch, but in the eyes of others, it was the new year. They ate everything clean, without even a drop of oil or soup left. Some people who were not well off secretly hid a few pieces of meat to take home for their children to eat. Lin Yu turned a blind eye to this. When work was finished in the evening, the scraped sugar residue was distributed equally to everyone. After the last portion of brown sugar had cooled down and was put into the ceramic jar, Lin Yu stopped brother Shisan, who was about to go home. Third brother, please find some wooden planks and help me build a single bed in the living room. I need it tonight. There are 2 main rooms in the house facing north and the remaining side rooms are in shabby condition, so Xiaowei has to stay in the main room for a few days. After he finishes the work of delivering the first batch of candy, he will build a few new houses. Brother Shisan thought that even if he was making a crib for the child, there was no need to make it tonight. You Warzi, there are 3 people in your family. Isn't 1 bed enough? Why do you need another one? Chapter 15 Wedding Night. Uwarzi has just been married for 2 days and hasn't he conceived yet? Does he need a single bed? No matter how anxious you are to have a child, there is no need to be so anxious. Faced with the concern of his third brother, Lin Yu pondered for a moment and pointed to the pottery jars and other items placed in the main hall. Shi Qingzhu wanted to steal things this morning. Adding a bed, whether someone is sleeping on it or not, at least can deter the thief. Lin Yu could only think of this reasonable excuse. He couldn't tell his third brother that he wanted to spend the bridal chamber with his beloved wife, and that he thought Yang Wei was too young to be present, so he got a single bed for Yang Wei to sleep in a separate room. In Dachang, it is very common to see daughters-in-law becoming mothers at the age of 15 or 16. But he couldn't get over the hurdle in his heart for the time being. You have a point. I'll bring the big yellow dog over here in the evening. Brother Shisan quickly called a few neighbors and asked each family to gather a few sturdy wooden boards. They put together a 3-foot wide single bed, which was just right for Lin Yu to lie on. He turned over and heard no sound, confirming that everything was safe. He wanted to treat Shisanj and others to dinner to express his gratitude, but everyone waved their hands and declined. Uwarzi, you should rest early. You still need to make candy tomorrow morning. Today my wife received her wages from you and went to the butcher in the neighboring village to buy half a pound of meat. We will go home and eat it. In this case, Lin Yu no longer tried to keep him. He personally saw everyone out. When he came back, Chen Jianyang and Yang Wei dug a basket of wild vegetables and picked a bunch of young tune. Lin Yu glanced at Chen Jianyang, whose face was flushed, and his heart beat fast. It's getting late. You guys pick the vegetables and I'll cook. Eat early and go to bed early. When Yang Wei heard that he was going to continue cooking, she smiled so much that her almond-shaped eyes curved into 2 crescent-shaped pools. But when she entered the room and saw the newly built bed, she suddenly felt like an eggplant hit by frost and was extremely depressed. While picking vegetables, he whispered to Chen Jianyang, Sister Jianyang, is brother Lin sick? Xiao Wei, you can't joke about this kind of thing. My husband has finally recovered from his mental illness. If he gets sick again, the pillar of the family will collapse. Seeing that Chen Jianyang had wrong thoughts, Yang Wei had no choice but to lean over and whisper in her ear. Brother Lin specially built a single bed in the main room. What? Remember the first night we arrived, he was sleeping on the chair, Sister Jianyang, is Brother Lin not good at that? Hiss. Chen Jianyang exerted force with her hands, and the tender tune was torn into pieces. She looked at Lin Yu, who was humming a little tune while cutting vegetables, in shock, and looked him up and down. Although my husband is very thin, he is quite strong. He has been eating well these days and never complains of being tired even after working all day. There's no sign of that failing. But Xiaowei's analysis was correct. Nowadays, we have enough food, clothing and taxes to pay, so life is not too burdensome. She thought she would share a room with her husband tonight, but she didn't expect a single bed to appear out of nowhere. Sister Jianyang, how about I try Brother Lin? Yang Wei rubbed her hands with excitement. She didn't understand the relationship between men and women and sexual intercourse, she simply wanted to be honest with Brother Lin and get closer to him. Because she always felt that Brother Lin's attitude towards her was subtly different from that of Sister Jianyang. Xiao Wei, stop making trouble. Chen Jianyang hurriedly grabbed her little hand and stuffed a handful of wild vegetables into her hand. You are still young, don't worry too much. Maybe your husband has suffered a lot in the past few years and his body hasn't recovered yet. Wait a little longer. She seemed to be talking to Yang Wei, but also seemed to be talking to herself. Right. Don't be impatient. Even if her husband is really not capable, she will never let him down even if she becomes a widow in this life. But you are not a child anymore, Sister Jianyang. Yang Wei's eyes were fixed on Chen Jianyang's heavy chest, and she felt sorry for her. Our family is rich now. Brother Lin needs to be treated for his illness immediately. I am still waiting for you to give birth to a chubby baby. Okay, Xiao Wei, you wait for me here. Chen Jianyang, who was suddenly teased, glared at her and reached out to tickle Yang Wei's itch. The two of them were playing around and laughing. Lin Yu curiously poked his head in, and seeing that the two men were in dishevel, he cut the vegetables even faster. He had never wished for darkness to fall as much as he did now. So that I can go to bed early with my wife. After dinner, Lin Yu personally made the bedding on the single bed. After washing up, he saw Yang Wei had already occupied the middle of the bed, holding the pink pillow she had chosen in her arms, looking at him subtly with an ambiguous smile on her face. Lin Yu was delighted, Xiao Wei has good eyesight. He gestured to the single bed outside and explained directly. Xiao Wei, I've made the bed for you. It's getting dark soon. Wash up and go get some rest. The smile on Yang Wei's face froze. She pointed at the tip of her upturned nose and asked in disbelief. Is the single bed outside for me to sleep in? What else? It can't be for me and my sweetheart to sleep with, right? Lin Yu knew that she spoke directly and did not beat around the bush. Chen Jianyang, who was sitting on the edge of the bed sewing sleeves, realized what was going on. Her hands trembled slightly and she was almost pricked by the needle. She wanted to calm down and finish sewing the last round of thread, but her heart was beating wildly like a deer and she couldn't control it at all. She could only put the needle and thread aside and make an embarrassed request to Yang Wei, who hadn't figured it out yet. Xiao Wei, please take care of the candy outside tonight. But we are only separated by a door. If a thief breaks in, he can see it from here. Yang Wei found out that Lin Yu was not sleeping on the single bed because he was sick, but that it was for her to sleep on. She couldn't accept this reality for a while. She didn't want to sleep alone. She wanted to sleep with Brother Lin. No, she liked sleeping with Sister Jianyang the most. Sister Jianyang is fragrant and soft, even softer than thick bedding. So she went to bed early today and took the middle position, because she wanted to sleep with her sister Jianyang in her arms tonight, and Brother Lin wouldn't hold her anyway. Who would have thought that she would be the one sleeping in the single bed? Lin Yu also understood at this time that Yang Wei didn't think about the matters between men and women at all, so he simply didn't let her think about it and went astray. Xiao Wei, third brother has tied his dog to the door and has a dog guarding the door. He wants you to guard against not thieves but wild cats that steal pork. How about this, you sleep outside tonight and I sleep outside tomorrow night, how about that? After he said that, he grabbed Yang Wei's hand, pulled her up, and brought her to the dried ribs. I'll make you sweet and sour pork ribs tomorrow. You have to watch out for wild cats that don't steal them. Sweet and sour spare ribs. Although Yang Wei has never eaten it, she can imagine how delicious this dish is just by listening to it. Between Sister Jianyang and the sweet and sour pork ribs,
she hesitated for only a moment before breaking free from Lin Yu's hand. He returned to the big bed and picked up his quilt, and before leaving, he did not forget the agreement with Lin Yu. "Brother Lin, it's agreed that you and sister Jiao Niang will sleep tonight, and it will be my turn tomorrow night. It's a deal." Lin Yu thought to himself, "Little foodie, won't I prepare new dishes for you tomorrow night?" After Yang Wei lay down on the single bed and blew out the lamp, he closed the door, inserted the wooden sheath, and moved the table with the oil lamp to the side of the bed. At this time, Chen Jianyang was sitting on the edge of the bed uncomfortably. She clasped her hands and lowered her head. She raised and lowered her left leg that was hanging outside the bed. Her face was flushed and her breathing was rapid. When you get closer, you can see her chest heaving violently and a thin layer of sweat forming on it. The more you look at a beauty under the lamp, the more beautiful she becomes. In the previous life, he was single for 30 years, and in return he got married to a beautiful woman, and from then on he and she spent their lives together, sharing the same fate. It felt wonderful, but at this moment the primitive impulse overwhelmed all other emotions. "My dear lady." Lin Yu's breathing also became heavy. He held the oil lamp in one hand and wrapped the other around Chen Jianyang's slender waist, asking with the last bit of rationality he had left. "Blow out the lights." Chapter 16, A Treasure. Chen Jianyang's voice was as low as a mosquito. Even though she was leaning on Lin Yu's neck at this time, Lin Yu still didn't hear her words clearly. But her shy action of closing her eyes said it all. The girl shyly embraced the man in his arms, even though she could not witness the beautiful scene of the night with her own eyes. But he was able to experience and measure it with his body and mind. Call. The oil lamp was blown out. The old bed board, bearing the weight of 2 people, made a creaking sound along with the girl's cry. The duet sounded intermittently for half an hour. Lin Yu lit the oil lamp with a tinder and looked at Chen Jianyang, who was sleeping on her side on the bed. The tears are light and even, yet still carry traces of the red clouds and morning dew. Like a bloomed flower bud, covered with crystal morning dew, it looks even more touching. But Lin Yu glanced at the bloodstains on the bed sheet. This time he suppressed his inner impulse and gently wiped Chen Jianyang clean. He crawled into the double bed, hugged his naked wife, and fell asleep. The nights in the village are long. At this time in Jingyang City, red lanterns were hanging high, and the aroma of wine and meat were everywhere. The nightlife has just begun. As the imperial examination was to be held next month, many merchants living in remote areas brought their children to stay in restaurants in the city in advance to help them acclimate to the environment. There is a lot of traffic in front of Qingjiang restaurant. Private room B, please go up to the 2nd floor and walk to the south on the left. Shopkeeper Tong stood at the door, greeting people coming and going, and from time to time he stood on tiptoe to look at the road. After getting the brown sugar in the morning, he asked someone to send a letter to his boss, asking him to add a few more special dishes in the evening and let the boss set the prices. Who knew that after waiting for a whole day, the boss didn't show up? The Dong family's villa is only 5 miles away from the city, but there has been no news for a whole day. Could it be that the Dong family didn't like the red sugar sent by Yu Warzi? It shouldn't be. In the past, most dishes using sugar had to be made with freshly boiled syrup, and the brown sugar was sweet and soft, and the color was not attractive. With brown sugar, not only do you no longer have to boil sugar when cooking, you can also use it directly when making desserts and pastries. It tastes better without the impurities in the syrup. It is truly delicious in color, aroma and taste. Is the boss not in the other courtyard today? As the crescent moon reached midair, the streets became less crowded with cars and horses. Just as shopkeeper Tong was about to turn around and hang up the closing sign, he heard the sound of hurried horse hooves clattering at the end of the street. 2 reddish-brown horses pulled the carriage towards Qingjiang restaurant, and manager Tong breathed a sigh of relief. Finally, I'm here. Identify horses and know people. In Dachang, if rich people wanted to ride in a carriage, they just had to be able to afford a horse. But those who could afford 2 horses were at least prominent and powerful nobles. In a small place like Jingyang County, there were only a handful of people who could afford to use 2 horses to pull a carriage. Even the county magistrate's family only had 1 horse. As soon as the carriage stopped, shopkeeper Tong hurried to meet it. Is the boss in there? At this time, a young man in his early 20s, with delicate looks and slender figure, dressed in purple clothes, lifted the curtain of the carriage. He stepped down on the stool and explained to manager Tong with a smile.
I just came back from visiting an old friend in Rongju Mansion. I heard from the housekeeper that you got a treasure, so I rushed here overnight. Uncle Tong must have been waiting for a long time, right? We have many customers today, and we are so busy that we didn't wait long. It's cold at night, please come in quickly. Shopkeeper Tong welcomed the guests in, hung up the closing sign, and asked the waiters to feed the horses and arrange accommodation for the groom. He led his host, Jiang Nanyang, and 2 personal servants to the special residence on the top floor. After pushing open the door and entering the box, the 3 young men in purple saw a white porcelain jar on the table. There was also a sweet smell in the room. Is it sugar? Jiang Nanyang has loved eating sweets since she was a child. Every day she would ask the cook to grind hard candy into powder and mix it with a bowl of sugar water to drink. But this is the first time I smell such pure sweetness. Uncle Tong, did you get these hard candies from the merchants who went to the western regions or the merchants who went to the southern kingdom? Just 1 can is not enough for me. Before she could finish her words, Jiang Nanyang bit her tongue in surprise when she saw the red sugar in the porcelain jar. He reached out and picked up a small handful of brown sugar, put it under his nose and sniffed it, and his pupils suddenly shrank. Uncle Tong, what is this? Brown sugar. Shopkeeper Tong explained how he got it and how it was different from hard candy. After saying this, he asked the waiter outside the door to invite Chef Chen. Just say the boss is here and ask him to present what he has prepared. Jiang Nanyang learned that shopkeeper Tong bought 60 kilograms of brown sugar in the morning and there would be more supply later. I guess Chef Chen may have used it to try many new dishes and pastries, and eating sugar directly affects the taste judgment. But in the end, appetite overcame reason, and he tilted his head back and put the candy grains into his mouth. It tastes as sweet as honey and smells as fragrant as orchid. It is sweeter than any hard candy I have ever eaten or any syrup I have ever drunk. Shopkeeper Tong, who was standing next to him, couldn't stop smiling when he heard the compliment. The best hard candy the boss has ever tasted is worth over 100 taels per pound. It seems that he has found a treasure this time. After Jiang Nanyang melted the red sugar in her mouth, she carefully inquired about who Lin Yu, the person who sent her the candy, was. Boss, there is a man in the kitchen named Lin Yu who cuts dough and makes sugar cakes. He has worked in the restaurant for more than 10 years. Do you remember him? Of course I don't remember. The cakes he made were very much to my taste. Unfortunately, he had an incurable disease. Didn't Uncle Lin pass away from the disease? Jiang Nanyang couldn't help but pinched another pinch of brown sugar, tilted her head back and melted it in her mouth. A happy smile appeared on his face. Remembering the dead can't resist the temptation of sugar. Lin Yu, who sent the brown sugar, is Lin Yu's son. I see. He was also curious about how the candy delivery man could deliver such a treasure directly to his door without considering bidding from other restaurants. It turns out that good deeds will bring good results. Jiang Nanyang held the sugar grains on her fingers and asked the servant to seal the jar. He tapped his temple with his right index finger and thought for a moment, then arranged with shopkeeper Tong, I will go to Shilin village with you in 3 days. What if the identity of the boss is exposed? No problem. Jiang Nanyang lowered his voice, looking very excited. My uncle served the emperor in battle and made great contributions. He also quelled the unrest on the border and donated a lot of food and grass. The emperor has conferred him the title of duke. Although the title has not yet been decided, many of my relatives in Beijing have already entered the court under the recommendation of my uncle. Upon learning that his boss's backing had risen to a higher level, shopkeeper Tong felt proud and congratulated him repeatedly. Even though the Chang Dynasty has been established for 3 years, the water in the court has always been muddy, and your majesty has not sorted out the merits and demerits in a timely manner. As a powerful family that once bet on other heroes, the Jiang family must act low-key. Now that the family has the support of the duke, not only the Qingjiang restaurant, but also the other businesses of the Jiang family in Jiannan Road will surely have less resistance and more business. My uncle also reminded me in his letter that while the imperial merchant is still undecided, I should make the Jiang family famous so that he can help us in the court. Jiang Nanyang's eyes were fixed on the sealed white can. After hesitating for a moment, he licked his fingers and did not open it, then continued speaking. It's just that my Jiannan Jiang family has many industries, but it doesn't have any special features that can surpass other families. The red sugar sent by Lin Yu can just help the Jiang family. Shopkeeper Tong, who had just been beaming with joy because the eldest master of the Jiang family became a duke, suddenly became solemn. "Boss, what do you mean?" Chapter 17 Disadvantages of Brown Sugar. I want the recipe for making brown sugar, or to have Lin Yu supply only Xinjiang restaurant. As a member of the Jiang family who is in charge of all industries in Azhou, his priority must be family interests. Considering that Lin Yu trusted Xinjiang restaurant and Uncle Lin had made a lot of sugar cakes for him, Jiang Nanyang decided to go to Shilin village to meet Lin Yu first, see Lin Yu's attitude, and then choose one of the two. "Uncle Tong, I taste this sweetness, it should be the sugar made from sugar cane. Go buy all the sweet sugar cane that can be used to make syrup in Jiannan Road in advance." "Good host." Shopkeeper Tong agreed. Not long after, Chef Chen came in carrying 2 3-layer food boxes. When you open the food box, you will see vinegar fish covered with brown sugar syrup. It is sweet and sour, delicious, and leaves you with a long aftertaste. The sugar cake made with brown sugar is delicate and delicious. No matter how hard you try, you can't taste the hard candy or syrup residue. This made Jiang Nanyang very satisfied. Prepare a few more special dishes, and when the sugar supply is stable, launch them as new signature dishes. By then, Xinjiang restaurant will surely surpass its peers and become the most famous restaurant in Jingyang City and even Azhou. Although Jiang Nanyang is young, he has a unique vision and can think ahead of others in everything. Shopkeeper Tong and Chef Chen have complete faith in his foresight. The only problem is that brown sugar is too dark in color, so be careful when seasoning it, lest the syrup is too dark in color and affects the color of the dish. Chef Chen nodded quickly in agreement. The boss is right. I will pay attention to it. But attention is attention. Brown sugar cannot be diluted with water, you can only try to season it again. If it really doesn't work, you can only focus on the taste first, and then consider improving other things. Jiang Nanyang picked up another piece of sweet and sour fish with chopsticks and stuffed it into his mouth, thinking to himself, it would be nice if there was white sugar. Unfortunately, whether it is sweet sugar cane or malt sugar, the boiled sugar is red and yellow in color and will burn when put into the pot. Forget it, one should be content with what one has. With brown sugar, he can eat more delicious sweets in the future. In order to thank Lin Yu, I want to prepare a surprise gift for him. Lin Yu felt the person in his arms move a few times, and then change to a hard pillow. He opened his eyes with resentment, staring at his new wife who was standing beside the bed, searching the floor for clothes to wear. The word "beautiful beyond measure" is a perfect fit for his wife. "Jiao Niang, I put your clothes from yesterday in the basin, and the new clothes are at the head of the bed." He suddenly spoke, and Chen Jianyang covered her body with her hands in panic. However, too much of her beauty was revealed and she couldn't cover it up. She could only glare at Lin Yu shyly and snatch the quilt from him. "R." Chen Jianyang, who saw the body of an adult man clearly for the first time, let out a cry of surprise. "It's not right to return the quilt that is covering my body, and it's not right not to return it." Seeing that her face was flushed with fever, Lin Yu was afraid that Yang Wei would hear the noise and rush in, so he hurriedly pulled her into the quilt. Boom boom boom. "Sister Jianyang, what's wrong with you?" Yang Wei, who was awakened, asked in a vague voice. "Brother Lin, are you up yet? I'm hungry." "Stop knocking, get up." Lin Yu embraced the spring scene tightly, but because the girl was thin-skinned, he did not dare to touch her. I could only resist the urge and help her put on her clothes first. "My husband, where are you touching?" "What do you mean, where to touch?" "I'm tying your belt for you." "Don't talk so fancifully, there's no light in the broad daylight." If Yang Wei heard it, she would think he was leading the kids astray, which would be terrible. "Husband, can you please tie your belt higher up? It's almost around my neck." "Yeah?" Lin Yu glanced at the belt tied around his chest and could only lean down hard. Maybe because he leaned too low, Chen Jianyang started to moan continuously. The two of them stayed in bed for a long time until they heard a dog barking outside, probably thinking there was someone coming. Lin Yucai reluctantly left the soft big bed, put on his clothes and pulled out the bolt. Yang Wei took his hand, walked to the window, and looked out through the hanging ribs. "Brother Lin, there's an old lady hanging around the door. She doesn't knock or come in. She's sneaky and looks just like the thief from yesterday. She doesn't seem like a good person." "What do you mean she doesn't look like a good person?" "She is not a good person at all."
Lin Yu looked through the crack in the door and recognized that the other person was Qing Niang. Even if you hold his heels, you know that the person coming is not friendly. If she wants to stand, let her stand. We can wash our faces and cook. There was a big yellow dog tied in the yard and the door was locked. Qingzhu broke in yesterday and beat the dog up, leaving it with a black eye and a swollen face. Qing Niang didn't dare to force her way in. Even if the other party was not a real elder, she was at least an elder from the same village. Lin Yu could not treat her like he did to Qingzhu, where he disliked her and hit her. We can only wait until our eldest aunt and others arrive and use the elders to restrain the elders. Lin Yu left the main hall, and Qing Niang began to sway left and right with him, trying hard to make her presence felt. After walking for a while, until the smell of rice wafted into the yard, Qing Niang swallowed her saliva until her mouth was dry, so she could only speak first. You Warzi, my Qingzhu beat you so hard that you couldn't get out of bed, but you are at home with a wife and children, a warm bed, and delicious meals every day. Do you have any conscience? I went home yesterday and discussed it with my son for a long time, and finally decided to ask Lin Yu for 2 taels of silver for medicine. Lin Yu had 2 taels of silver just between his fingers, but the mother and son's goal was to give Lin Yu 2 taels first so that he would admit to beating someone. Then he said the injury was serious and extorted 20 or 200 taels. Lin Yu didn't know what Qingzhu and the others were planning, but he was too lazy to pay attention to Qingzhu's mother. Let him talk about conscience with the evil people. If he were to live his life over again, he wouldn't want to live a miserable life or die too soon. Lin Yu shook the cleaned ribs in his hand at the big yellow dog and threw a piece at the gate where it could not reach. The big yellow dog dived over and met Qing Niang's eyes. It showed 2 rows of sharp white teeth and dug its claws into the ground, trying to reach the pork ribs that were half a step away. It looked so ferocious as if it wants to eat people. Woof woof. Oh, mother. Qing Niang was so scared that she sat down on the ground, with yellow soup all over the ground. Feather. Woof woof woof. Whenever she opened her mouth, the big yellow dog would always bark before her and louder than her. Qingzhu's mother was angry and scared, and really wanted to rush in and argue with Lin Yu. Unfortunately, the guard dog was too powerful, and it frightened her so much that she became weak all over and couldn't even stand up. It was not until the 3 people inside finished their breakfast and Aunt Lin came to work with her 3 daughters-in-law and 2 daughters that she stopped the big yellow dog. Help Qingzhu up quickly. My Da Huang must have mistaken you for a thief and scared you, right? Sister-in-law, tie this dead dog aside quickly. I'm going in to talk to Lin Yu about something. Qing Niang didn't care about the mud on her pants and ordered Aunt Lin in a domineering manner. Her husband and Aunt Lin's husband are cousins from the same grandfather. In Qing Niang's opinion, a woman should obey her husband, and her relationship with Aunt Lin is closer than that with Lin Yu. Aunt Lin knew that Lin Yu was not someone who didn't know etiquette. Qingzhu's mother was so scared by her own big yellow dog that she sat on the ground and refused to help. Lin Yu must have a reason. She couldn't deal with Qing Niang, her sister-in-law, so she could only wink at her eldest daughter-in-law, the most aggressive one in the family. Mrs. She took a step forward and started talking. Aunt, if you are here to work, you must pass the assessment before you can enter. If you come here to cause trouble, we don't welcome you. Mrs. She did not wait for Qing Niang to admit or refute, and continued to speak loudly and quickly. Qingzhu was sneaked in yesterday and was beaten by his 4th uncle so hard that he couldn't get out of bed. Auntie, you didn't know that his 4th uncle was helping here and came to cause trouble for him, did you? 4th uncle, come quickly, Qingzhu's mother is looking for you. At this time, many villagers were working on the slope from east to west. Shalaosi was also among them. Mrs. Sha's words instantly made all the villagers who came to work look at him. The condemning looks from the crowd were exactly the same as they were yesterday when they treated Chen Fangju. They will fight to the death with anyone who dares to delay their wages. Chapter 18, The village is full of wild sugarcane. Shalaosi gritted his teeth and walked in front of Qing Niang to clear himself first. Why are you looking for me? Qingzhu himself is not doing his job properly, so beating him up is the least he can do. If Yuwazi reports to the police, he will at least have one hand cut off for stealing from someone else's house. I'm his uncle, and I'm doing this for his own good. He really did it for Qingzhu's own good, and he didn't hesitate to admit in public that he was the one who beat the man. However, Qingzhu's mother did not expect that her brother-in-law would turn his elbow outward towards Lin Yu. She was caught off guard by the accusation, and dozens of people were standing at the door, making sure they wouldn't let her in. I spent the whole night preparing something to blackmail someone, but I just couldn't bring myself to say it out loud. Mother Qingzhu, please go back and take care of Qingzhu as soon as possible. When he recovers, let him find a job. He is from Shilin village after all. He can make a lot of money if he works hard while Yuwarzi is harvesting wild sugar cane. The elders gave earnest advice, revealing who had the most influence in Shilin village at that time. Qingzhu's mother opened her mouth, and finally burst into tears, covering her face and running to the east of the village. When did Lin Yu have the final say in Shilin village? No. She wants to ask the village chief for help. After Qingzhu Niang left, Aunt Lin was the first to walk into the yard. Seeing that Lin Yu fed the big yellow dog meaty ribs and wild vegetable porridge, she almost cursed him as a prodigal son. Aunt, if you hadn't arrived in time, Da Huang would have scared Qingzhu's mother to death. Lin Yu licked his face and joked, as if he didn't take Qingzhu Niang's blackmail to heart. Upon seeing this, Aunt Lin's expression became even more serious and she instructed him carefully. Yuwarzi, if she comes to cause trouble, you can ask the elders like fifth grandpa to administer justice. If you push her too hard, be careful that she might get desperate and cause trouble. I know Qingzhu has a lot of bad friends, but I still have the support of the whole village. I'm not afraid of what they might do, what do you think? Lin Yu's words were equivalent to acknowledging the favor that everyone had just helped. Everyone has a happy face. Even Shileosi made up his mind to explain the situation in the village to his nephew and sister-in-law when he had time. Don't become a rat crossing the street, everyone shouting and beating you. Everyone only talked about the little incident of Qingzhu Niang causing trouble for a moment. Soon they started to produce syrup. The flames in the yard grew brighter and brighter, and the smell in the air grew sweeter. Outside the gate, Brother Shasan was pulling the cart up and down the slope repeatedly. At the end of the day, he delivered 5,000 wild sugarcanes. Together with those sent by other villagers, there were about 10,000 wild sugarcanes. Today we boiled out 1,200 kilograms of brown sugar, plus what we boiled in half a day yesterday. Now we have 1,500 kilograms. They were packed into 50-kilogram short jars and filled up half the room. Yuwarzi, there is not a single piece of wild sugar cane left in our village. Everyone goes to other villages to collect wild sugar cane. It takes a long time to go back and forth, and it can only be delivered in the evening. Lin Yu looked at the hundreds of wild sugarcanes piled up at the base of the wall. This is not enough to cook in 10 pots tomorrow. Tell them to deliver it no matter how late it is. No credit. I will pay you when it is delivered. According to the number of kilograms he promised to Qingjiang restaurant, he only needs to deliver 2,000 kilograms in 3 days. But wild sugarcane is about to go out of season, and the mountain roads are difficult to travel on, so the raw materials for making sugar must be prepared in advance to avoid supply shortages. Even though brown sugar was his own secret recipe and it was just a verbal agreement with Uncle Tong, the ancients valued their promises. A man without faith cannot stand. Work hard to make money, and eat when you need to. Yuwarzi, you've been busy all day and you're still anxious to have a baby. If you're confident, leave it to me. Brother Shasan was probably used to carrying the bag from dawn to dark. I returned to the village and worked from sunrise to sunset. Today, I had an extra tael of silver in my hand. At this moment, I still have endless energy. Lin Yu was very tempted by his third brother's proposal, but he had never thought about having a baby. Is this the ancient version of induced childbirth? Third brother, you can't handle it all by yourself. So, while you're having dinner, go find 10 villagers who know you well to help you. 3 cents per hour. If there is no wild sugarcane delivered, you will help patrol outside the yard. The sugar jars in the main room couldn't hold all the sugar, so they had to be put in the side rooms. The village may not be rich in other aspects, but the yard is really big. Not counting the built houses, the yard surrounded by the wall alone is 7 acres of land. The big yellow dog can guard the door and the house, but it is a bit difficult for it to guard the entire yard alone. He was also on guard against Qingzhu's counterattack. When Brother Shasan heard that he had to pay money, he tried to refuse. Soon after, villagers brought 3,000 wild sugarcanes collected from Donghubei. Third brother, take these 5 taels of silver first, and come back to me if it's not enough. After Lin Yu stuffed the money in, he became a hands-off boss. Brother Shasan was afraid of making a mistake in the calculation,
so he had to call his childhood friend who was good at accounting to keep an eye on it and pay the wages according to the amount to avoid any mistakes. The sun was still hanging in the west, and during the hour that the gate was open, except for the area near the stove, everywhere else was filled with wild sugarcane. Not only will thieves have nowhere to step when they come to steal, but rats will also have to take a detit. Before going to bed, Lin Yu and his wife Xiao Wei checked the corks of each jar. I felt relieved only after I made sure that even rats couldn't get in. Brother Lin, we agreed that I will sleep with sister Jianyang tonight. Yang Wei seized the opportunity and put her arm around Chen Jianyang. Chen Jianyang, who had her first sexual experience, felt a little sore in the legs and tired today. Without waiting for Lin Yu to find another reason to coax Xiao Wei to sleep on the single bed, she said softly, "Husband, I'm a little tired, how about I sleep in the living room tonight?" Tired? Lin Yu thought about how it didn't take long last night, and it didn't make sense that the pain of losing her virginity should last for a whole day and night, and he felt guilty. It seems that just being a hands-off boss is not enough. We also need to train some more people who can replace Jianiang and others to do the work, so that they can have more free time and enjoy life. A man's word is as good as gold. If I say I will sleep, then I will sleep. If someone outside needs me for something, it will not be convenient to stay indoors. Lin Yu pushed the two of them into the inner room. While Yang Wei went to wash up, she spent some time with Chen Jianyang. Until she was sweating profusely and soaked the sheets, Lin Yu felt sorry for her tiredness and did not dare to move any further. I went back to my single bed and made pancakes obediently. Nightfall. The area west of the village is still brightly lit. The villagers, holding torches and hurrying on the road, pulled carts and shouted, handed the wild sugarcane collected from other villages to Brother Shisan for inspection and settlement. Yuwazi charges 5 for 1 cent. I charge 12 for 1 cent in Jiangjiashai, 10 miles away. I made 2 trips today. After deducting the cost of renting the car, I made a net profit of 300 cents. There are a lot of wild sugar canes in Donghu Bay, and there are also many idle girls and wives in the village. My brother and I can collect 15 pieces for 1 penny. Many villages heard that our Shilin village collects wild sugarcane and wanted to send it here directly. They heard that Yuwarzi only collects our own people, so they are so envious. When this was mentioned, everyone gave a thumbs up to Lin Yu's decision to treat his villagers well. Chen Fangju was standing at the door of her house, cracking melon seeds and listening to them praising Lin Yu. Thinking that Qingzhu Niang had come to her for advice during the day, she smiled with glee. What envy! When Lin Yu fails to deliver the goods and gets into a lawsuit, we'll see if you guys who flatter him will continue to say good things about him. She doesn't take her position as the village chief seriously and goes to please a half-grown idiot. Sooner or later, they will know who has the final say in Shilin village. Chapter 19, Brother-in-law is seriously ill. Because Lin Yu had his first taste of love, he knew the sweetness of it and could not forget it. He lay on his bed making pancakes and couldn't fall asleep in the first half of the night. In the second half of the night, people coming and going to deliver wild sugarcane suddenly reminded him of the unresolved troubles and he couldn't sleep at all. In the end, I could only take a nap when the rooster crowed and get up when it was dawn. He opened the door, stretched himself, walked through the sugarcane pile and opened the main door. Why did Yuwarzi get up so early? Brother Shisan has 2 dark bags under his eyes but looks energetic. The other 9 people who were dozing against the wall quickly opened their eyes, stood up and greeted each other. Because Lin Yu had been studying in the city for many years, he was not familiar with the villagers of his generation. There was no way to offer a cigarette to break the deadlock, so I could only smile dryly, say hello, and get straight to the point. How many wild sugar canes did you harvest last night? 38,000 in total. R. 1 tael of silver is equivalent to 1,000 coins and can buy 5,000 wild sugar canes. 5 taels can only buy 25,000 sticks, and you didn't pay for the rest. We just brought in 2 carts, totaling 14,000 sticks. It just so happened that the silver you gave me was not enough, so I and the others paid for it first, and that's why I didn't wake you up. Thank you very much. Lin Yu hurriedly took out the silver and returned it to everyone, settling the wages. He then invited everyone to have breakfast. Wild sugarcane cannot be cut at night, and because it has to be transported on mountain roads, there is basically no one to keep an eye on it in the morning. When Aunt Lin and the others arrived and started the fire, he mixed lime water according to the sugar content of the wild sugarcane and gave it to Chen Jianyang and Yang Wei and the others. I took a nap. Not long after I fell asleep, I heard suppressed crying and opened my eyes. Chen Jianyang walked into the inner room wiping her tears, which scared him so much that he quickly turned over and sat up. What's wrong? Did you get lime water in your eyes? No, it's my brother. Suddenly, Chen Jianyang threw herself into his arms and burst into tears. Husband, my grandparents just sent someone to deliver a message saying that my brother is seriously ill and asked me to take you home. My husband, my brother is the only relative in the world who doesn't despise me. If he were gone, how would I explain to my parents? Even though Chen Jianyang said she would not go back to her parents' home when she passed by Donghubei last time. In fact, she is still thinking about her younger brother. It was just that the Chen family's grandparents in Donghubei sent someone to deliver a message, specifically asking him to go, which seemed strange. Lin Yu patted her back gently and comforted her softly. Don't panic yet. How is your brother's health? When talking about sad things, Chen Jianyang couldn't stop crying. Wanger is just like my husband. He passed the examination but was stripped of his title. Before my eldest brother joined the army, he left money for Guanger to study, but Grandpa and Grandma said that they were sick because of me. My parents died early and there was no one in my family to show filial piety. I can't rest in peace. My grandparents decided to take my place as my eldest uncle's cousin in corvée labor. I was injured and developed a cough. My grandparents didn't give me money to treat my illness. Whenever it gets cold, I cough up blood. Chen Jianyang originally thought that she would go home to check on her brother after the busy period at home was over. Who could have thought that Guanger would become seriously ill in the warm spring? Lin Yu finally understood. It turns out that vicious relatives are not exclusive to him. Chen Jianyang is even more miserable than him. After all, it was his uncle who wanted to wipe out his entire family, and Chen Jiao's family was biased towards the eldest son's grandparents. Miss Jiao, Wanger is probably not seriously ill. Someone wants to invite me to Donghubei and deliberately came up with this excuse. Chen Jianyang was so concerned that she didn't understand the main point of the message. After Lin Yu finished his analysis, she suddenly realized. Yes, it was understandable that she was asked to go back because Guanger was in trouble, but why did she specifically suggest taking her husband back with her? Thinking back carefully, the original words of the messenger were, "Be sure to bring Lin Yu back to help." Chen Jianyang's sadness was replaced by anger, and she asked tremblingly, "Husband, is this aimed at you? It should be that the news of my making money reached your grandparents, and they wanted to take advantage of you." Lin Yu thought of the village chief's family who had been silent for 2 days, and Qingzhu Niang and her son who always wanted to break into the yard. Tomorrow morning, Qingjiang restaurant will come to collect sugar. If we go to Donghubei now, we will arrive in the afternoon. If I get delayed in Donghubei, it would probably be dark by the time I get home. Lure the tiger away from the mountain. Last night, Brother Shasan and 10 of his companions were outside harvesting wild sugarcane, and they will do the same tonight. If someone wants to steal candy, it would take at least dozens of people to succeed. But his family is now protected by the entire village, and any suspicious outsiders cannot even enter the village entrance. Worrying that his brother-in-law might be seriously ill or have had an accident, Lin Yu felt a little confused and couldn't think too deeply for the time being. All they could do was ask Aunt Lin to call third brother Shi to come home to sleep, and then hire a few more people to guard the house at night. Aunt, Jianyang's brother is seriously ill. She and I are going to Donghubei. Please help take care of Xiaowei and the family. Before leaving, Lin Yu entrusted Yang Wei to the care of his aunt. He also didn't forget to tell Yang Wei specifically. If an accident happens at home, food and drink are not important, your life is the most important, do you understand? Yang Wei nodded as if she understood, and asked them back. Brother Lin, Sister Jianyang, aren't you coming back tonight? I don't know yet. Lin Yu only had 3 taels of silver on him, and gave the rest to his aunt, asking her to use it for wages and for collecting wild sugarcane. It just so happened that the cousin of the same old man in the village was going to Donghubei to collect wild sugarcane. After asking Chen Jianyang for her opinion, he picked up a 5-jin jar of brown sugar and a bag of flour. I got on my cousin's cart and took them to Donghubei. Almost as soon as the group left, Qingzhu Niang, who was guarding in the dense bushes at the entrance of the village, showed her face from the bushes and spat in the direction the cart was leaving. This is ridiculous. My relatives from the same village have turned against me.
My wife's brother-in-law is like a house on fire when something happens to him. None of the men are good. After Qingzhu Niang finished cursing, she cast an admiring look towards the village chief's house on the riverbank. Not only is the third sister-in-law powerful, but her family is also powerful. Yesterday morning, she was driven away by Lin Yu and his group and went to ask the village chief for advice. The third sister-in-law suggested that they first trick Lin Yu out of the house, and then let Qingzhu find some friends at night. They would find a way to move the candy away in front of everyone, and no one would dare to stop them. Lin Yu could buy wild sugarcane at a high price and hire workers to make sugar. A pound of sugar could be sold for at least dozens of coins. Since you, Lin Yu, don't want to compensate us for the medicine, we can take it ourselves. No matter what we do, it's all because of you. In order to get Lin Yu to leave, the third sister-in-law specially asked her family from Donghubei for help, and it was done in no time. Next, we will wait until dark to move the sugar. When Lin Yu fails to deliver the goods in the morning and gets sued, I will also share half of the paddy field that third sister-in-law wants to occupy with her. No matter how much you admire her, Qingzhu Niang is as ruthless as a piece of meat and will not miss any opportunity to make money. Back home, she saw her son throwing dice with 3 drinking buddies from Zhangjia's high around the table, with melon seed wine jugs thrown all over the floor. She was furious. Qingzhu, why are you drinking when the sun is still hanging overhead? Are you drinking after your injury has healed? How much sugar can you carry with just the 4 of you? Why don't you go find some helpers? Qingzhu pointed inside the dilapidated thatched hut without raising his head and continued rolling the dice. Chapter 20, No one can bully my wife. Qingzhu Niang turned her head and looked. 7 or 8 drunkards wearing ragged clothes and reeking of alcohol came out of the room. Several of them looked very familiar. They had come to my house for dinner several times. They called me auntie affectionately and my faces were immediately filled with smiles. There are enough people. If there are more, there won't be enough money to go around. Now we just have to wait until dark to take action. Third sister-in-law must keep Lin Yu in Donghubei. She folded her hands and looked up to the sky in prayer. Mom, what are you afraid of? It's okay if I can't keep you. Qingzhu was chewing a young reed sprout in his mouth, with a ferocious murderous look on his face. If he dares to come back and ruin my good deeds, I will send him to see the king of hell. If you do it on the first day, you won't be afraid of the 15th. Among the friends he called, there were deserters from the previous dynasty who had fought on the battlefield and killed people. Killing Lin Yu in the chaos is as easy as crushing an ant. Qingzhu Niang looked at the deserter holding the axe. His muscular body and face full of scars made her shudder with fear. I could only smile dryly and advise, we only seek wealth and don't want to hurt anyone. Let the villagers know that her family colluded with people from other villages to sabotage Lin Yu's money-making, causing the entire village to lose their source of income. Based on what happened yesterday morning, the whole village will definitely tie him up and make him kneel in the ancestral hall, and he will also be sent to prison. Don't be fooled by her bragging that her son knows some Yarman runners outside. In fact, it was just when his son was caught drinking and committing a crime in the city. She slept with the old man who had one leg in the coffin of a Yarman runner for several nights, but they had no friendship at all. Mom, there is nothing for you to do here. Just wait until we sell the candy and let you enjoy a peaceful retirement. Why do you need to raise me when I'm old? Your father passed away early, and I only have you as my son. I'm counting on you to marry a wife and have 2 children for me to take care of. The mother and son imagined a beautiful future. I was very excited when I talked about the friends who came to help me. I wish it would get dark soon so I can go to Lin Yu's house to move the sugar jar. After exchanging the money, he could go to Qingjiang restaurant to eat and drink as much as he wanted, and then go to Itsue Tower to sleep with the most coquettish and wild woman. Squeak, squeak, squeak. The mountain road is difficult to travel. Lin Yu and Chen Jianyang sat for a while, walked for a while, and when they encountered muddy ground due to flooding, they had to push the bicycle for a while. Finally, we arrived at the single-plank bridge leading to the village from Donghubei in the afternoon. You Warzi, the cart can't go any further. When are you going back? Or should I take you back? Lin Yu saw that the villagers heard the noise and carried wild sugarcane from the roadside to the bridge, rejecting his cousin's kindness. Thank you, Brother Cheng. You can return first after loading the goods. We don't know how long it will take to leave Donghubei. Okay, I can't go far for a while,
just let me know if you need anything. After the people delivering the wild sugarcane had crossed the bridge, Lin Yu followed Chen Jianyang and carefully walked across the 2-foot wide and 3-meter long single-plank bridge. Entered the village. Many people looked at them curiously and whispered to each other. Isn't this the beautiful girl from Master Chen Liu's family who married into Shilin village? The young man next to her must be the idiot boy. He is so handsome. What a fool. He is not a fool anymore. He has made a lot of money. People in Shilin village are saying that the unlucky star in our village is not an unlucky star, but a lucky star. The sounds of envy are endless. There was a girl who knew Chen Jianyang before, and she came forward to say hello, especially to Lin Yu. Some people even flirted with Lin Yu in front of Chen Jianyang, and stuck to him as if they had no bones. Mr. Lin, your clothes are so beautiful. I have never seen stitching like this before. What is so good about a plain blue shirt? Lin Yu was speechless. He grabbed Chen Jianyang's hand and quickly left this den of tigers and wolves. He is in need of a wife, but he won't accept just any ugly one. There are many girls in this group who have participated in the matchmaking event in Shilin village. They ignored him before, but now they want to pay him back. First you need to find a mirror to see if your face is too big. Husband, please slow down. If you're any slower, they'll catch up with us. You're going the wrong way. Lin Yu, who came to Donghubei for the first time, was speechless again when he looked at the villages built along the river. I thought Shilin village was poor enough, but it turns out Donghubei is even poorer. This place is not close to the mountains but close to the water. However, because it is located in a bay where the river water is turbulent, no one fishes on the river. Every household lived in thatched huts, and some people wore straw mats to cover their bodies. However, there is a magnificent house on Shanghai, the westernmost side. After asking Jianyang, she found out that it is the house of the landlord Chen in the village. 80% of the people in Donghubei are tenants of the landlord Chen's family. My family is one of them. We work hard to cultivate 10 acres of land every year, but we have never had a full meal. Chen Jianyang looked at the sparkling water and sighed softly. My eldest brother didn't want to pay taxes for the landlords and the court all the time, so he took the initiative to join the army. But he didn't hear from him for 3 years, and everyone said he was dead. It's clearly the same past, the same river. Perhaps because she had someone to rely on, when Chen Jianyang talked about it again, the context was no longer as depressed as before. Lin Yu squeezed her hand and looked towards the fork in the road. Where are we going next? Why did your grandparents just ask me to come here? Why didn't they send anyone to greet me? He prepared some generous gifts to take back to his mother's home. The Chen family's grandparents were rude to their new son-in-law, so don't blame him for retaliating. Husband, they think I'm a jinx and don't welcome me home, so how could they come to greet us? Chen Jianyang can see clearly what people are thinking. Don't have any illusions, just walk in front and lead the way for him. Walk along a 100-meter muddy and narrow path, and then pass through the crowded houses in the middle of the village. When many people in Donghubei heard that Chen Jianyang had brought her son-in-law back to her parents' home, dressed in bright and beautiful clothes and carrying rice and flour in her hands, they all leaned over to watch. He wanted to say hello to the wealthy son-in-law Lin Yu, get closer to him, and ask for a place to send wild sugarcane directly. But seeing the unlucky star standing next to him, no one dared to approach and talk to him. Some people even said sourly, "What's so great about it? There is a jinx living in the house. Sooner or later, the whole family will die out." Lin Yu looked at the young man who was speaking. The other party was not jealous of his wife, but seemed to be jealous of him. There was lust in his eyes when he looked at the beautiful woman. Chen Jianyang introduced with a cold face, "He is my great-grandfather's cousin. He loved to tease me since he was a child. My brother beat him every time he saw him. Ever since my parents and eldest brother got into trouble one after another, they have been gossiping and humiliating me and Guaner. In fact, she is used to this kind of thing and doesn't take it to heart. But today, when she returned to Donghubei, with her husband following her, she couldn't help but say it out loud. A cousin who is related to me." Lin Yu lowered his head and looked around, but couldn't find anything suitable, so he handed the bag of flour to his wife. He picked up a piece of mud with stones on it and threw it hard at the young man's face across the half-man-length fence. Bang! Oh, my face! Chen Jianyang, please take care of your man. The young man wiped off the bloody mud and glared at Lin Yu. This is in Donghubei, not Shilin village. What's wrong with Lin Yu's new son-in-law? Has he lost his dignity? Lin Yu was not afraid at all. He raised the sugar jar in his hand and warned murderously. You'd better take care of your mouth that spews shit. I'll just hit you for the sake of luck. If you have the guts, open the door. Do you believe I'll chop your head off right there? The arrogant ones are afraid of the stupid ones, and the stupid ones are afraid of the desperate ones. The young man heard that Lin Yu had passed the examination for a scholar and was a student. Chen Jianyang wanted to go back to her parents' home, so she went back. She thought that Lin Yu was a soft persimmon who could not stand up and could be bullied by women. Their eyes met, and the young man staggered back a step in fear. Not to mention opening the door, he rushed into the main room and locked the door. The noise was so loud that it shook off 3 layers of thatch on the roof. Lin Yu was very satisfied with the deterrent effect. He looked coldly at the neighbors who had just gossiped. If anyone dares to bully my wife or gossip about her again, I will fight him to the death. Chapter 21 Divorce and Marry Another. The daughter-in-law's family cannot give her confidence. I, Lin Yu, will give it to you. Lin Yu rubbed the mud on his hands on the fence of the young man's house, then rubbed it clean on his clothes, and then grabbed Chen Jianyang's hand. My husband. It doesn't matter if they call me the Death Star. Chen Jianyang held his hand with her backhand, and her rosy little face was filled with a happy smile. Lin Yu couldn't laugh. Do you still like the title of the unlucky star? Perhaps the misfortunes I encountered in the past were for the sake of meeting you, my husband. Thinking about it this way, I think it's not bad. Lin Yu swore that he would never hear such brainwashing poisonous chicken soup from his wife again. Misfortune is misfortune, there is no need to give it any noble meaning. He sighed inwardly, fearing that Chen Jianyang would get into another dead end. Let's go. As a village that relies on clan and family relationships and needs to survive by sticking together. The fact that the villagers of Donghubei dared to treat Jianyang like this shows that her grandparents and family members condoned this. He wanted to meet his grandparents who claimed to be unlucky, and ask them why they were not dead yet. Sir, we're here. Going further east is East Lake. Lin Yu glanced at the young man who lived next door and decided to burn more paper money for his brother-in-law on Qingming Festival. I regret not using the candy jar to smash that daring cousin's head. He looked towards the Chen family's thatched cottage. There are 6 main rooms facing west and east, and 4 auxiliary rooms on the left and right. The eastern part is built with adobe. The mixed style makes this yard look out of place. Where does Guanger live? This time, Lin Yu did not come here to visit Chen's grandparents. He came to save his brother-in-law. Chen Jianyang pursed her lips and pointed to 2 low shacks built outside the courtyard wall. Ever since Grandpa and Grandma got sick, they kicked us out. After saying that, she pointed to the adobe main house and the auxiliary room on the east side. Before my eldest brother passed away, he built a mud house by himself, which was given to my eldest uncle's family by my grandparents. Damn you biased elders. Lin Yu took a deep breath, rushed into the shack with 1 step, and his pupils shrank suddenly. In fact, what he was thinking was that if Chen Guanger lived in the shack, he would save the time of pretending to visit Chen's grandparents. Jianyang took Chen Guanger away directly. But logically speaking, since they sent someone to deliver a letter to his family, the Chen family would pretend to carry the seriously ill Chen Guanger back home to take care of him. So just peek in. Unexpectedly. I really overestimated the bottom line of this group of people. Come here quickly, my dear. Lin Yu saw that Chen Guanger's chest was still heaving, so he bent down to the straw mat spread on the muddy ground, reached out and touched the forehead of his brother-in-law who was so thin that only a bag of bones was left. Sizzling hot. When I lifted my hair, I saw blood in it. He gently pulled at his brother-in-law's thick hair to check for injuries. Finally found out that this wasn't a serious illness at all. My brother-in-law was hit on the back of the head with a stick and fell into a coma due to the serious injury and fever. Judging from the extent of the burns on the lips, it must have lasted for more than half a day. If the fire continues, my brain will become confused. As she was speaking, Chen Jianyang walked into the shack. When he saw his younger brother lying on the straw mat, covered in mud, with the flour bag in his hand dropped to the ground, he rushed over in disbelief. Guanger, what's wrong with you? Wake up! He has a fever. He must be sent to a doctor immediately. Without time to explain, Lin Yu, with the help of Chen Jianyang, carried the person on his back. As the couple walked out of the shack, the Chen family members who heard the noise came and blocked their way. The leader was a fat, dark old woman with half-white hair. She was leaning on a cane and had a smiling but bitter look on her face. Chen Jianyang was shocked when she saw the old woman walking with crutches. "Grandma? Aren't you paralyzed and unable to get out of bed? As soon as you, the unlucky star, left, my illness was immediately cured. Why is it not working?" Old Mrs. Chen glanced at Chen Jianyang and didn't take this granddaughter seriously at all. She looked at the young man who was carrying Chen Guang'er on his back. He was handsome, and wearing a neat blue gown, he looked better than any other young man she had ever seen in her life. In particular, he passed the examination to become a Tongxing and is now the leader of Shilin village. If I had known this would happen, I would have reported Chen Jianyang's illness, let her continue to work like a slave at home, and let the daughter of the old family marry Lin Yu. "Grandma, my brother-in-law is so handsome." Following behind old lady Chen was a girl of about 17 or 18, whose facial features were squeezed together due to obesity. She made no secret of her inner thoughts. "Brother-in-law, Chen Jianyang is a bad luck star. She will bring you bad luck. If you divorce her and marry me, it will definitely bring you good luck." Chen Jiazhen even took a step forward and proudly puffed out her chest. Even though she weighs twice as much as Chen Jianyang, her size is half their size. Coupled with the tone of insisting on marrying her, Lin Yu's forehead veins throbbed. "Get out of the way!" Lin Yu growled. "I'm in a hurry to find a doctor for Guang'er. We can talk about other things later." In his opinion, with such disgusting relatives, there would be no future after today. Chen Jianyang originally felt guilty about the fact that her grandparents were made sick by her. But today, I saw my grandmother appear in front of me, full of energy and vitality, and she asked her husband to divorce his wife and marry my cousin Chen Jiazhen. She finally saw the true face of this family. "Husband, there's no need to talk to them, let's go." Chen Jianyang moved a few steps to the side and was about to pass the Chen family's grandparents and grandchildren. At this time, 3 men rushed out from the dilapidated wooden door. It was her uncle and 2 cousins. Following behind were my aunt and cousin's wife, holding spatulas and other tools. "Son-in-law, now that you're here, we're still making dinner for you. Why are you in such a hurry to leave?" The aunt waved the oily spatula in her hand and looked at Lin Yu. The more the mother-in-law looks at her son-in-law, the more satisfied she becomes. Uncle Chen was thinking about getting a large sum of money for his daughter's marriage, so he wanted to find a good marriage for his youngest son. He reached out to Lin Yu's shoulder in a familiar manner. "Chen Guang's illness can be cured by holding on, there is no need to find a doctor, let's sit down and have a few drinks." "Father-in-law and son-in-law? So you specially asked me to come to Donghubei with the intention of exchanging wives?" Lin Yu felt extremely disgusting at this moment, even more uncomfortable than swallowing a fly in the toilet. The one who felt even worse than him was Chen Jianyang. Seeing that this family not only refused to treat his brother's illness and injuries but also used him as a scapegoat, he lured his husband to force him to divorce his wife and remarry. The humiliation that Chen Jianyang had suppressed for many years completely erupted at this moment. Chapter 22, Trouble in East Lake Bay. "Get out! Get out! All of you, get out!" Chen Jianyang opened the flour bag on the ground and threw it towards old lady Chen and Chen Jiazhen. He turned around, took out the sugar jar from the shack, and threw it at his uncle and aunt who were blocking the way. The younger generation, who had always worked like a slave at home, suddenly went crazy, scaring Grandma Chen and her family so much that they kept hiding. Finally a passage was opened. Lin Yu took advantage of the opportunity, grabbed Chen Jianyang's hand and rushed forward, running as fast as if there was a dog chasing him from behind. By the time the Chen family reacted, the two had already run far away and disappeared after turning the corner. Uncle Chen was so angry that he kept hitting his eldest son on the round head. "Go after him, you idiot! We can't let him get away. I finally tricked Lin Yu here, caught him and had him in the bridal chamber with Jiaozhen at night. If he refuses to marry me, I'll report him to the authorities for raping a decent girl." This is a good idea from sister-in-law Yang. Lin Yu was able to study and do business, and his family also had 2 acres of private land. Such a good husband should be his daughter's. How could she be taken away by the unlucky star of the second brother's family who was picked up to be used as a beast of burden? "Brother, hurry up and chase her."
If you don't get Lin Yu back, I won't be able to get married. You will help me pay the single tax next year. Under the pressure of paying taxes, the Chen brothers, blinded by flour, ran after the two men. The neighbors popped their heads out to listen to the gossip. He learned that old lady Chen and others used Chen Guang'er to trick Lin Yu into coming and made Lin Yu divorce Chen Zhenyang and marry Chen Zhezhen. Thinking of that handsome young man, I looked at Chen Zhezhen, who was as fat as a pig, lazy and gluttonous, and often enjoyed bullying Chen Zhenyang. I couldn't help but feel sympathy for Chen Zhenyang. It's unlucky to have grandparents like this. Zhao Niang's parents died of exhaustion. Her eldest brother was forced to join the army, and her brothers were forced to do corvée labor for others. The only one left was forced to give up her good husband to her younger sister. I heard that Zhao Niang's father was picked up from a pile of dead bodies by old lady Chen. Open cannibalism was common in times of war. People eat each other in secret, and they always kill without shedding blood. Mother Yang, who was hiding in the dark and observing, was so angry that she stamped her feet when she saw that old lady Chen's family failed to keep anyone. She had agreed with Chen Fangju. As long as Lin Yu stays in Donghubei for one night, he can get 1 or 2 taels of silver, and he can also sell a money-losing girl in his family to Shilin village as a daughter-in-law. We can't just do it in vain. Since old Mrs. Chen's family was useless, she had other options. Huff huff. Lin Yu ran on the narrow village road in Donghubei, regretting that he had underestimated the evil of human nature. I should have brought some helpers earlier, instead of bringing my beloved wife alone into this dangerous place. My husband. I'm sorry for causing you trouble. Chen Zhenyang supported Chen Guang'er, who was rocking on his back, her voice choked with sobs. If it weren't for her, my husband wouldn't have suffered these humiliations. Lin Yu grinned and said, "We are family. Let's not talk about getting involved. When Guang'er wakes up, he will move his household registration to our house. If there are relatives, we will make the decision." He had seen many biased elders, but he had never seen an elder who would treat his own grandchildren like this. In addition, the Chen family are all short and stocky, while Zhao Niang and her brother are tall. He seriously suspected that either the siblings were picked up or his father-in-law was picked up. Picking up a child from the village and raising him like a cow or a horse, giving him food and soup, and devoting himself selflessly to his own child. Not to mention that it exists in this age of cannibalism, he has seen quite a few in his previous life. I listened to my husband. Chen Jianyan wiped the corners of her eyes and suddenly stopped in front of the single-plank bridge, her face pale. I saw a group of cousins with the surname Chen and villagers who were on good terms with old lady Chen, holding hoes and shovels in their hands. Standing in front of the single-plank bridge, blocking the only way forward. My lovely niece and nephew-in-law, why don't you just go back to your parents' home? Why are you here empty-handed? Shilin village is much richer than our Donghubei. You, my nephew-in-law, have made a lot of money. But you want to marry our Donghubei girls and take away the Donghubei boys without giving them gifts. The villagers who were called over by Yang's mother did not take any action. But the robber's posture of blocking the road still made Chen Jianyang feel like she was facing a formidable enemy. She regretted not learning the Qingcheng mountain martial arts from her elder brother, otherwise she would be able to fight these bandits now. My husband, what should we do now? There are the Chen family behind us and people blocking the road in front of us. If you go into the water, the deepest part in the middle of the bridge is bottomless, and it is impossible to swim across with the light behind you. Chen Jianyang felt miserable. They say there is always a way out, but when God says there is no way out, there really is no way out. Lin Yu's eyes swept over the greedy villagers, gritted his teeth, and pushed Chen Guang'er, who was about to slide down, up. In fact, he had a way to get rid of these bandits, but it would require a time before most people left the single-plank bridge. Just then, a loud shout came from the other side of the bridge from my cousin Lin Cheng. "You Wazi! Sister-in-law! You two move back!" The other side of the bridge. Several strong young men from Shilin village, pushing a cart full of wild sugarcane, rushed towards the single-plank bridge under the command of Lin Cheng. "Wild sugarcane is coming!" Crash! The wild sugarcane on the cart poured into the river bend like dumplings and floated up. Under the astonished gaze of everyone, Lin Cheng put his hands to his mouth and shouted loudly. 1 penny for 10 sticks, hurry up and pick them up. Although the water level in the center of the river is deep, the water level at the edge of the nearby shallows is just above the calf. When many people saw wild sugarcane falling into the river, they wanted to pick it up but were worried that Lin Cheng would pursue them. Now that they heard that there was money to be made by picking up wild sugarcane, they all dispersed and went down to the river to salvage wild sugarcane. But there are still some people who are defending the bridgehead. I can't sell a bundle of wild sugar cane for much money, so it's better to ask my nephew's husband to give me some money to spend. Want to get something for nothing? Then I will grant you that. Lin Yu felt Chen Guang's temperature on his back getting higher and higher, and knew that this matter could not be delayed any longer. Otherwise, when all the wild sugarcane in the river is picked up, Brother Cheng will have wasted a whole cart of wild sugarcane. My dear, take out all the silver in my pocket and treat it as a gift to honor your uncles and elders. Why should we respect them? Chen Jianyang was not convinced, but she followed her husband's decision without hesitation. She took out the only 3 taels of silver left in her pocket. The group of people standing at the bridgehead saw the dazzling silver and their eyes turned green. Even Yang's mother, who was huddled in the crowd, squeezed to the front. She heard that Lin Yu made money, but she didn't expect him to be so rich. He was actually willing to spend 3 taels of silver to give to Chen Jianyang as a gift. If she had known earlier, she would have asked Xiaowei, that money-losing girl, to go back to her parents' home with her. Lin Yu raised his head towards the people struggling in the river, and ordered Chen Jianyang, throw the silver into the water, the farther away from the bridgehead, the better. He was careless this time and just considered it as a loss to avoid disaster. He will never come back to this shabby place, Donghu Bay, in his life. My husband, I'm sorry. I will earn it back. Chen Jianyang clenched the silver in her hand and threw it into the river with all her strength. Go pick it up. Whoever finds the 3 taels of silver owns it. Ding dong. The silver fell into the water. Not only the people on the bridge went crazy. Even the people in the river gave up picking wild sugarcane and waded through the water towards the place where the silver fell into the water. In an instant, the river channel, which was less than 10 feet square, was crowded with dozens of people. Someone was quick enough to grab half a pound of silver, but was quickly hit by a piece of wild sugarcane and lost his grip. Seeing the silver and blood, people became even more crazy and began to fight for them openly. In addition to a large amount of bluish-white wild sugarcane floating on the river, there are also strands of bright red. Shouts, cursing, crying and curses echoed under the bridge, one after another. There was no one on the single plank bridge. Even Yang's mother knew that 3 taels of silver were more than 1 tael, so she did not serve as the last bridge keeper. Lin Yu carried Chen Guanga on his back and held Chen Jianyang's hand. With the help of Lin Cheng and others, he stepped on the cart that crashed into the bridge and crossed the bridge. Uncle Chen's shouts came from behind. Lin Yu. Unlucky star. Don't even think about running away. It's really haunting. Lin Yu's eyes were fixed on the axe tied to the handlebars, his eyes fierce. We must not let the Chen family fall behind. Chapter 23, Rely on friends when you go out. Brother Cheng, help me support my brother-in-law. Okay. Lin Yu handed Chen Guanger to Lin Cheng, picked up the axe, and chopped at the bridge with all his strength. As the saying goes, destroying bridges and blocking roads will damage one's virtue. But at this moment, I can't even take care of the living people, so there's no need to worry so much. Just cut it and it's done. The 2-foot-wide single-plank bridge is very solid, but Lin Yu has stronger explosive power. In addition, the supporting area of the single-plank bridge was small, and it collapsed in a few seconds after a crackling sound. Boom! A large section of the bridge collapsed into the river. Pull the cart out. Lin Yu gave another order. Other people from Shilin village all rushed over to help, and pulled and lifted the cart that was about to fall to the shore. Wait until Uncle Chen and others reach the other side of the bridge and step onto the single-plank bridge. Even though most of it was not destroyed, it still creaked and shook. Uncle Chen and his 2 sons were so frightened that they retreated in panic and could only curse from a distance. Chen Jianyang. If you dare to take your brother away from Donghu Bay today, don't even think about coming back. It's like my wife is so reluctant to come back here. Lin Yu waved the axe in his hand towards them, pretending to be ferocious and threatening. If you dare to catch up with me again, next time I'll chop off your heads instead of the bridge. Girl, let's go. If you don't agree, there's no need to talk too much. His brother-in-law is still waiting for him to treat his illness and injuries. The cart was broken and could no longer be pushed or pulled using donkeys or human labor.
Lin Cheng looked at the cart of wild sugarcane floating downstream with regret and said nothing more. In his opinion, the situation just now was more important than the loss of a truckload of wild sugarcane, as protecting the interests of his fellow villagers was more important. Those people in Donghubei really want to strip Yuwarzi naked and eat him whole. Yuwarzi, this bridge was built by landlord Chen. I'm waiting here for landlord Chen to explain to him, lest he report to the police. You and your sister-in-law take your brother-in-law and leave first. Thank you, brother Cheng. I will compensate you for the wild sugar cane and return you an ox cart later. Without waiting for Lin Cheng to refuse, Lin Yu carried Lin Guanger on his back again and walked towards the fork in the road leading to the city. It takes another hour and a half to walk from Donghubei to the county town. They passed through 3 villages on their way. When Lin Yu arrived at Zhangjia's High, the sun was already hanging over the western mountain. I happened to meet my aunt's uncle Shirerhi, a fellow villager who came here to collect wild sugarcane. Yuwarzi, what are you doing in Zhangjia's High? Shirerhi's daughter-in-law is from Zhangjia's High and is quite familiar with the situation here. I heard that he was going to the city to see a doctor, so I took him into the village. Yuwarzi, you don't know that there is a great doctor in Zhangjia village. Anyone in the village who has a headache or fever will go to him for treatment, and he can cure any disease. It is said that the ancestor of Dr. Li was an imperial physician of the previous dynasty, who lived in seclusion in the mountains to avoid disaster during the war. Later, when the new dynasty of Dachang was established, a nobleman came to visit and invited him to come out of retirement. But the other party took into consideration the care of the villagers of Zhangjia's High for several years and there were no doctors around, so he did not leave at the villagers' request. No matter how good the medical skills of such a doctor are, at least his medical ethics will not be wrong. Chen Guanger, who was on Lin Yu's back, was so hot from his breath that his face was burned. He was worried that he could not make it to the city. Regardless of whether the disease can be cured or not, at least Dr. Li can provide some emergency treatment. Facing Uncle Shi, who kept lending a hand to Chen Guanger, Lin Yu couldn't help but sigh. It's true that when you go out, you have to rely on your friends. At the beginning, he used the harvest of wild sugarcane to benefit Shilin village, and his intention was to use the entire village as a knife to deal with the difficult village chief and his family. What happened today made him truly understand what it meant to sow good seeds and reap good results. I need to be more sincere when treating everyone in the future. Uncle Li, are you home? There's a patient urgently looking for you. Shirerhi entered the bamboo house where Dr. Li was and started shouting. Dr. Li, who was drinking and playing with his dog in the bamboo forest in the backyard, walked out slowly. Dr. Li is over 50 years old. His hair is white but his skin is smooth. He looks only about 40 years old. He wears a grey shirt and a black scarf. There was a gentle breeze blowing through the bamboo forest, making the clothes flutter, giving a Taoist feeling. Lin Yu bowed slightly with his back to the person and said anxiously, Dr. Li, please take a look at my wife's brother's injury. Carry the injured person to the bamboo bed in the house and lay him flat. Dr. Li was calm when facing people who came to him for medical treatment. Under the couple's eager gaze, he looked at Lin Guanger's condition and shook his head slightly. He is not seriously injured. He is weak and has many illnesses, including a cough. I can treat the internal emptiness, which is a stubborn disease. However, if the high fever persists, strong medicine will be needed to be effective. I am worried that his body cannot bear it. I'll clean his wound first and give him some mild fever-reducing medicine. As for whether he can wake up, it all depends on his luck. Dr. Li seemed to be worried that they would try any possible means to cure their illness, so he added another sentence. If you send him to the city now, he might die on the way. His body can't stand the torture. Life and death are determined by fate. It's all the Chen family's fault for not sending the patient to their hospital in advance. Minor injuries and illnesses were turned into fatal problems. After hearing what Dr. Li said, Chen Jianyan hugged Lin Yu's arm and cried silently. Lin Yu glanced at Chen Jianyan, who was completely panicked, and knew that his brother-in-law's life was now in his hands. Senior, I'm sorry. Without hesitation, he snatched the wine jug from Dr. Li's hand, unscrewed the cork, and poured the sake inside into his palm. When Dr. Li saw this, he became so anxious that he jumped up and down. You idiot, what are you doing? Do you think I'm drunk and lying to you? No. No time to explain. Lin Yu felt the strength of the alcohol. In the era when there was no strong liquor, the best sake was around 20 degrees. The sake he just poured was cloudy but not turbid, and tasted cool and refreshing. It was top quality sake. No wonder Dr. Li was so reluctant to pour the wine for him, as if he was cutting meat. Senior, I know a good recipe for reducing fever, and I need to borrow your sake. Don't worry, Senior. I will definitely give you better wine later. Although Lin Yu is young, he speaks with reason and evidence, and his eyes are firm and don't seem fake. But Dr. Li secretly muttered, I drink the best sake in the world, which can't be bought with a pot of 500 taels. He was muttering. Lin Yu lifted up Chen Guang's clothes, took half a pot of sake and poured it on Chen Guang's forehead, armpits and vest. This operation left Dr. Li dumbfounded. You idiot, why are you throwing sake as if it were water? Dr. Li thought that he was going to use it as a medicine inducer and just a few drops would be enough. Who would have thought that this was an unheard of method of reducing fever? It would be fine if the person could be rescued, but if not, it would be a waste of resources. Senior, alcohol can reduce fever. Since my brother-in-law can't drink antipyretics, we can only reduce fever externally. Although he said this, Lin Yu was still unsure. If after half an hour, Chen Guanger still has a high fever and there is no improvement, that's what it means to really leave it to fate. Rubbing alcohol on the body can reduce fever. Which medical book or secret recipe records this? How come I don't know about it? After Dr. Li and Lin Yu finished their sake, he snatched their wine jug and poured a few drops on the back of his hand with a painful look on his face. If this kid from another village is just being mysterious. He immediately kicked Lin Yu out to avoid affecting his treatment. It's not enough to just hit it out, he also wants Lin Yu to compensate him for his fine wine immediately. If you can't afford the compensation, just leave your wife and brothers behind to do the laundry, cook and collect herbs for him. Chapter 24, I owe you half a pot of wine. After a while, Dr. Li found that the back of his hand, after pouring the sake, felt cool and was still absorbing the heat from the surrounding area. His eyes suddenly changed, his expression ecstatic. You're quite capable, kid. The alcohol vapor is used to absorb and dissipate heat, thus achieving the effect of reducing fever. He had never imagined that sake could have such miraculous effects. No need to pay for the wine or chase people away. Dr. Li quickly picked up the small hoe next to him and put the bamboo basket on his back. He changed his cold tone and gave Lin Yu a gentle admonition. Young man, take good care of your brother-in-law. I'm going to go get some herbs for him and will be back in a quarter of an hour. As long as his fever subsides, even if the king of hell wants to take him away, I can still snatch your brother-in-law's life back. Lin Yu continued to rub the area where the alcohol had been spilled, observing the changes in the skin to prevent allergies. Hearing this, he nodded slightly and breathed a sigh of relief. As long as the doctor doesn't give up, the hope of my brother-in-law waking up will increase. The rest depends on fate. The sun gradually sets in the west, and the aroma of medicinal herbs wafts through the bamboo house. When the sun sank into the horizon, Dr. Li, who was pounding medicine outside, came in and lit the oil lamp. He touched Chen Guang's warm forehead with the back of his hand, his frown relaxed, and he turned to Lin Yu to assure him. Your method of reducing fever is very effective. Combined with my medicine, he will wake up soon. My husband, that's great. Chen Jianyan, who had been worried all the time, finally relaxed. She leaned in Lin Yu's arms and shed tears of joy. Fortunately, her husband is here, otherwise she wouldn't know how to deal with so many dangers. After Lin Yu comforted his wife, he kept expressing his gratitude to Dr. Li. Young man, don't be polite to me. It is my duty to save the dying and the wounded. Dr. Li shook his wine jug, which had been lightened considerably. Since Lin Yu can really use sake to reduce fever, it must be no exaggeration to say that he would compensate him with a pot of better sake. Young man, you taught me a method to reduce fever. It's used to pay for the medicine. Remember to return the half pot of wine you owe me. Must. For Lin Yu, who often helps his grandmother make wine and his grandfather make sorghum wine. As long as there is enough food, even a pot of wine would be enough to compensate them, let alone a jar of wine. Dr. Li also wanted to find out which wine was better than the Wuling Zui he drank. Feeling the change in Chen Guang's breathing, he coughed lightly and left the room very attentively. Anyway, it will take at least 2 months for the injured person to cure his internal illness, so he is not afraid that Lin Yu will forget to compensate him for the wine. After a while, Chen Guanger,
who was lying on the bamboo bed, slowly opened his eyes. "Sister, thirsty." "Wanger." Chen Jianyan shouted excitedly and hurried to find some water to drink. Lin Yu, who had already noticed Dr. Li's attentiveness, asked for a cup of warm salt water and pulled out a piece of dogtail grass. When Chen Guanger regained consciousness, his high fever had turned into a low fever, but his hands and feet were weak, he had a wound on his head, and he had to be fed water. Lin Yu couldn't bear to see Chen Jianyang tired, so he dipped some foxtail grass in water to moisten Chen Guanger's lips. Dr. Li, who was outside curious about him pulling foxtail grass, leaned out of the window and saw this scene, and suddenly realized what was going on. This kid is more than just a little bit capable, could he be a miracle doctor? Patients who have just recovered from a serious illness may easily choke and suffer internal injuries if they rush to drink water. Drinking dogtail grass dipped in water can not only relieve the pain of choking when drinking too quickly, but also allow patients to drink less water, ensuring that the medicinal soup can evaporate more effectively. Chen Guanger waited until his lips were completely wet, then he looked at Lin Yu and asked, "Brother, who are you?" "Guanger, this is your brother-in-law. This time, it was thanks to him that he risked his life to bring you out of Donghubei." When Chen Jianyang talked about what happened during the day, she still couldn't help feeling scared. Lin Yu listened to her statement quietly until he finished the whole cup of water, and looked anxiously at the red afterglow outside. The brother-in-law was rescued, but he still felt worried since he left home. If you think about it carefully, whether it was the proposal of old lady Chen's family to divorce his wife and not remarry, or the people who suddenly appeared to block their way when they were fleeing from Donghubei, it seems like someone is controlling everything behind the scenes. "Senior, is it okay for my wife and brother-in-law to stay here tonight?" Dr. Li, who was standing outside the window waiting to discover new medicine, was deep in thought. Before he could make a decision, Shi, who had led Lin Yu forward, fell to his knees with a thud. "Uncle Li. Get up, I didn't say no." Dr. Li pinched his flowing white beard that fell to his chest and explained with an unnatural look. "My cooking is not good. We have rice and flour at home. If your wife stays, she will be responsible for cooking." "Girl." Chen Jianyang remembered what Dr. Li had said, that her brother should not be moved easily. But she was also concerned about things at home. "Husband, I'm here to take care of Guanger, what about the sugar-making work? There are Xiaowei and I. Besides, we are just going to get through the dangerous period tonight. When Guanger no longer has a fever, we will come to pick you up tomorrow." Chen Jianyang always abides by his arrangements, even if she has any doubts. "That's settled." Lin Yu quickly pulled Shi up and thanked Dr. Li solemnly. He pulled Shi out of the gate and hurriedly returned to the place where they met. "You Warzi, you are in such a hurry to leave. We won't be able to have a hot meal if we drive the donkey cart back. The sooner you get home, the easier it is to get home. The mountain roads are hard to travel at night. It would be terrible if you run into a panda at an unlucky time. Avoiding pandas is more motivating than eating a hot meal." Shi didn't even load the wild sugarcane piled on the roadside onto the truck, and just pulled the empty truck carrying Lin Yu. Amid the donkey's braying, it jogged westward. West of Shilin village. When it was completely dark, Yang Wei, who was standing at the gate like a woman waiting for her husband to leave, pursed her lips and withdrew her gaze from the end of the slope. "Brother Lin and sister Jianiang, are they going to be detained in Donghubei?" These words gave Brother Shisan a big shock. In the evening, Lin Cheng returned to the village and told Lin Yu about Lin Yu's incident in Donghubei where he tried to snatch his brother-in-law. He also gave Lin Yu a message. "Landlord Chen will come tomorrow to ask for money to repair the bridge." For fear that Yang Wei, a little girl without a backbone at home, would be scared, he did not dare to tell Yang Wei these things. He just called in more people to prevent the people from Donghubei from coming to his house to make trouble, and to guard against any suspicious people from approaching. I didn't expect that Yang Wei could actually guess what happened to Lin Yu and the others. I really underestimated this little girl before. Third brother, I will not lock the main door tonight, only the door to the room. In case Brother Lin and the others come back and they don't have enough money, you can ask me for it. Yang Wei patted her flat chest gently. She still had 5 taels of silver given to her by Brother Lin as pocket money. Brother Shisan responded and continued to pile up wild sugarcane. Yang Wei checked the seals of the 30 jars of sugar that she had made today and piled them next to the entrance of the main hall. After the examination, she sat on the chair,
looked up at the crescent moon on the top of the bamboo, and yawned. Forget it, I won't wait any longer. I'm going to sleep first. It's her turn to sleep in the main room tonight. She is an honest and trustworthy person, and she would never sneak out and sleep in the big bed when no one is around. She is the one guarding the house tonight. The lights in the room were turned off. The big yellow dog lay under the eaves of the house, opening and closing its eyes from time to time, looking at Brother Shashan and his acquaintances from the same village who were busy outside. He was so well behaved that he didn't even cry out. It was not until midnight that the sound of footsteps came from the direction of the bamboo forest in the west. The big yellow dog stood up suddenly and stared into the depths of the bamboo forest. Chapter 25. The mouse lights a lamp to falsely show mercy. Suddenly, there was a rustling sound on the ground, like the sound of sifting beans. Immediately afterwards, a group of squeaking mice rushed towards the big yellow dog. Because they are small in size and crawl on the ground, they are difficult to be found because of the cover of green grass. At the tips of their tails were tied burning straw ropes. The flames flickered like willow, the wisp in the dark night, rushing quickly towards the yard. Woof 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 woof. The big yellow dog started barking wildly when it saw the flames, attracting the attention of many people outside the door. Especially Brother Shashan, he thought someone was coming. But when he stood on tiptoe and looked towards the bamboo forest where the big yellow dog was barking, he didn't see any human figure. The rats bypassed the gate area where the big yellow dog was, passed through the broken adobe wall, and hid in the pile of wild sugarcane. They were fast and small in size, and there were many torches burning outside the door, so they failed to attract anyone's attention. Who is Da Huang calling out to? Who knows? Anyway, everyone who can come to our village is here. With so many eyes, are you afraid that you won't see the troublemakers? With more than 20 strong guys helping tonight, Brother Shashan is indeed not worried. But Da Huang never barks randomly, so there must be something in the bamboo forest. How about going over there and taking a look? Brother Shashan was just about to call a few childhood friends to confirm whether there was a panda in the forest that wanted to break into their house and lick the bottom of the pot. Suddenly, waves of heat came from behind me. When he turned his head, he was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat. There were flames everywhere in the yard where wild sugarcane was piled up. At some point, the wild sugarcane was ignited, the flames grew from small to large, and soon turned into a sea of fire. Who would have thought that wild sugarcane, which can produce smoke when burned as firewood, would catch fire for no reason? The fire broke out. Brother Shashan didn't care about much else and just shouted at the top of his voice to inform the people around him. Hurry up and put out the fire with water. Thinking that Yang Wei was still sleeping in the room, he was about to rush in to save her. The door opened from the inside. Yang Wei held a jar of brown sugar, walked through the heat wave to the door, put the jar in an open space away from the wild sugarcane, turned around and went back into the main room. Sister-in-law, come back. Yang Wei seemed not to have heard what third brother she said. She ran into the main room and brought out another jar of candy. There was food in the main room, and a few mice came in directly through the window. She had fallen asleep long ago and didn't smell anything, but was woken up by the burns of the flames that rolled to her feet. When she saw her house on fire, her first thought was to run. After putting on my clothes, I found that the fire in the house was not big, so I took a can of brown sugar. Third brother, the fire in the house is not big, and the jar is sealed so water can't get in. You can move it out while pouring water. Yang Wei did not forget what Brother Lin told her before he left home. What the family eats and drinks is not important, her life is the most important. However, a girl who could not afford the 500 when single tax was treated as a money loser by her family and was kicked out of the house to become someone else's concubine. I deeply understand that sometimes human life is not as valuable as a jar of sugar they make. Don't worry, I won't move when I can't. Without waiting for others to persuade her, Yang Wei rushed into the sea of fire again. She is short in stature but naturally strong. It is easier than others to walk between flames. Third brother She finally put out a fire started by his childhood friend and followed him into the main room to get a jar of sugar. The burning flames licked my clothes and I could only step back and watch. It was not until the fire inside and outside the house grew bigger and bigger that he had to put out the fire before entering that he had to stop Yang Wei. Sister-in-law, if you go in again you'll be buried in there. During this short period of time, Yang Wei went in and out 5 times and brought out 5 jars of sugar.
There were several burn holes on the hem of his clothes and arms, and blisters formed. But when she saw the sugar jar engulfed in the flames, she was still so heartbroken that she couldn't breathe and wanted to save it. If it continues to burn and turns into sugar water, what will we do if Brother Lin can't deliver the goods tomorrow? It's all her fault for sleeping too deeply. If she had discovered the fire earlier and put it out, the fire wouldn't have been so big. Brother Shasan wanted to comfort her, but he didn't know where to start. I could only shout to my childhood friends to fetch water and ask more villagers to come and help. Put out the fire. Cut down the trees. There seem to be sparks in the bamboo forest. We must not let this fire spread to other places. There is a water source on the back hill. You can pick up a bucket and pour it into the fire. But there were too many wild sugarcanes in the yard, and there were also quite a few piled outside the yard. Someone was needed to fetch water to put out the fire and also to move away the piles of unburned wild sugarcane. Cut down the bamboo and trees between the back mountain and the house to form a firebreak. Otherwise, if a forest fire breaks out in the area, not just a few cans of sugar or a house will be burned down, but the entire Shilin village will suffer a devastating disaster. The billowing smoke woke up everyone in Shilin village. Regardless of gender, anyone who could move came over to help, carrying buckets of water or axe from their homes. In the messy crowd, a dozen unfamiliar faces covered in black appeared out of nowhere, and no one paid any attention to them. Shichinju, on the other hand, was carrying an empty wooden barrel and walking on the road that Shisenji and others had opened by pouring water in front of them. While waiting for the fire to die down, when Brother Shisen needed help moving the sugar jar in the main room, he came over with a smile. Third brother, take a break. I'll carry these sugar jars. Qingjuwa. Aren't you recuperating at home? Brother Shisen felt very complicated when he saw Shichinju rushing to put out the fire. Although it was the fourth cousin who was the most ruthless when Shichinju was injured, Lin Yu also attacked ruthlessly. How could this guy come to help without holding a grudge? There is always a feeling of false compassion. Third brother, I am also from Shilin village. How can I not come when such a big thing happened in the idiot's family? Shichinju didn't waste any time talking to Brother Shisan and waved back. The deserter brother took the lead, rushed in, picked up a can of candy, and walked out in the thick smoke in a menacing manner. Immediately afterwards, the remaining dozen or so helpers, in groups of 2, carried the sugar jar and walked out. As the fire weakened and the flames dimmed, and coupled with their deliberate disguise, third brother Shi, who was entangled by Shichinju and talking, failed to notice anything unusual. Until Brother Shisan had rested enough, recovered his strength, and bent down to move the sugar jar. Shichinju, who was standing in front of him, suddenly revealed a ferocious expression. Third brother, I told you I'll move these sugar jars. Even if the idiot's things are sold, you won't get any money. Why are you so bothered? In the flash of lightning, Brother Shisan suddenly understood. Shichinju didn't come here to help out of kindness, but to take advantage of the situation. Qingjuwa, what do you want to do? The cost of the medicine for Lin Yu's injury can be offset with this brown sugar. You dare? Come on. Bang. Shichinju, who was well prepared, picked up a broken beam nearby. He hit Shisenji on the top of his head skillfully, just like he did last night when he hit Chen Guanger. The attack was unintentional and hit the target in one go. Brother Shisan only had time to let out a muffled groan before he fell straight onto a sugar jar. Shichinju kicked the man several times in a row until he made him vomit blood, then he stopped panting. He stared at the flickering ashes, his face full of murderous intent. Chapter 26. They are not from Shilin village. If I wasn't afraid of burning myself while moving things, I would have let you guys successfully put out the fire. Now I have to throw you, the nosy dog, into the fire and roast you for Lin Yu to see. After kicking him hard a few more times, Shichinju finally felt relieved. He pushed Brother Shisan aside and tried to pick up the sugar jar, but he lost his balance and the jar fell to the ground. Crash! The brown sugar inside fell to the ground and covered the charred rat corpse. Once it's covered in ashes, there's no way to resell it. What bad luck! A fool is indeed a fool. How can he use such a big jar to hold sugar? Shichinju cursed and pushed the blame onto others to ease his own embarrassment. At this time, Yang Wei, who was stopped outside the gate by Aunt Lin and guarding 5 sugar jars, heard the noise coming from the main room. She rushed to the person holding the sugar jar and asked him anxiously. Why did the jar break? Did the sugar melt? Unexpectedly, the other person's eyes flickered without answering. He picked up the candy jar and ran forward, running farther and farther away. Yang Wei and Aunt Lin then realized it. The people who were carrying the sugar jars in and out just now didn't even stop at the door. Aunt Lin narrowed her eyes and stared at the back of the person running away, muttering to herself in confusion. Why haven't I seen this young man in the village? Aunt, don't you know him? Yang Wei herself felt that this person was suspicious, and after hearing what Aunt Lin said, she was anxious and wanted to chase after him. Someone grabbed her wrist from behind. When she turned around, she saw a man with scars all over his face. Little girl, you're running into the mountains so late at night. Are you in a hurry to be reborn? The scarred man was filled with violence, and just looking at his ferocious face, it looked as if he had killed several people in his hands, which was frightening. He specifically stopped Yang Wei from chasing, but it was not for Yang Wei's safety. They were simply afraid that the people in the surrounding Shilin village would discover their identities and block them in the village to beat and punish them. Brother, the man just now didn't seem to be from Shilin village. I want to chase him back. Yang Wei had seen this man before. The man was very strong and he carried a sugar jar by himself like her, moving it back and forth more than 10 times. They were all placed outside the door and taken away by a few strangers. Etc. Transport away. Yang Wei then realized that not only did she not recognize the man who had just run away, but she had also never seen the man with the scar in front of her in all her time in Shilin village. These people are not from Shilin village at all, they are here to steal things. After realizing this, Yang Wei struggled to break free from the scarred man's grip, took Aunt Lin's arm, and subconsciously retreated into the yard. Xia Wei, don't be afraid. The fire is out. Someone has gone to look for you, Warzi. He will be back soon. Aunt Lin noticed that she was trembling all over and thought she had come back to her senses and was frightened by the fire. Facing the stare of the scarred man, Yang Wei tried to speak out, saying that the people coming in and out of her yard were not helpers. But it's a candy thief. The villagers were busy putting out the sparks that had spread up into the forest. There was only her and Aunt Lin here. What if the other party tried to kill her to silence her? The little girl is quite smart. Seeing that the other party didn't say anything, the man with the scar stood there holding the candy jar. Until 2 more companions came out together holding a jar of sugar. He walked forward, looking back from time to time. The ferocious eyes silently warned Yang Wei, if you dare to speak, your life will be in danger. More than a dozen young and strong men took over the relay in less than half an hour. All the 80 sugar jars in the house were transported out of Lin Yu's house in broad daylight under the eyes of all the villagers. Only the 5 sugar jars next to Yang Wei were left. Just when Yang Wei wanted to hide them secretly, Qingzhu walked out from the door and raised his eyebrows and smiled lewdly at her. After the house is finished, take these 5 sugar jars outside with her. Although he had no interest in the girl, Yang Wei was pretty, so he brought her back to entertain his friends who had worked hard all night. Anyway, if Lin Yu fails to deliver the goods tomorrow morning, he will become a poor man who is bullied by others again. No one cared even if his wife was stolen. Qingzhu, what do you want to do? What you are doing is not stealing, but robbery. Aunt Lin held Yang Wei's hand tightly, looked at Qingzhu in disbelief as he said such ridiculous words, and warned him in a disappointed tone. New dynasty, new decree, bygones will be forgiven, but whoever dares to be a bandit after the establishment of the Great Constant will be killed without mercy. During the chaotic old dynasty, order collapsed and bandits and robbers emerged in large numbers. When the Shin dynasty was established, the imperial court wanted to consolidate the prestige of the emperor and to increase the population steadily. He would not tolerate any bandits robbing the people of Dachang. But Qingzhu was a street urchin and was not a law-abiding citizen. He set fire and stole tonight without taking the law seriously, and when he went out, he ran into Lin Yu's young wife Yang Wei. I thought to myself that Lin Yu had become a pauper, but he still had beauties left and right. Of course he couldn't let Lin Yu have an easy time. Aunt, I advise you not to meddle in other people's business and go see your good third child. Yang Wei was grateful to us for helping her move the sugar jar, so she volunteered to go with us, right, Yang Wei? Qingzhu said as he reached out to pull Yang Wei. The 2 drunkards who had been eyeing her for a long time and were extremely bold came forward to help her with lewd smiles. Only the deserter with a scar on his face, who claimed to have killed someone, stopped them. First, move the sugar jar into the car and take it away. Once the sparks in the mountain are out, the people from Shilin village will return soon. The fire in the mountain was also set by Shichinju and his men, with the purpose of making a feint to the east and attacking in the west. Otherwise, it would be impossible for a group of rats to extend the fire line to several hundred meters just by running around in a fixed spot. Shichinju had just smashed a jar of candy and was feeling upset when he saw that Yang Wei refused to give in. For the sake of his reputation and prestige, he ordered the two drunkards, "You move the sugar jar, I will subdue her, and let her serve you two brothers later." "Thank you, Qingzhu brother." The two perverts looked at Yang Wei reluctantly, lifted a can of sugar with great effort, and walked towards the forest where the ox cart was parked. The scarred man saw that Shichinju was deliberately targeting Yang Wei and had no choice but to knock out Aunt Lin, who wanted to call for help, with a palm. "Qingzhu, please move faster." The surroundings have become quiet, and the figures on the mountain are gradually approaching this side. The scarred man picked up the sugar jar and quickly left this place of trouble. Before the scarred man could walk away, Shichinju rushed towards Yang Wei with open arms like a tiger descending from a mountain. "Don't come over here." Yang Wei punched Shichinju on the bridge of his nose randomly, causing blood to spurt out of his nose. Shichinju immediately became angry and humiliated. He picked up the wine gourd from his waist and smashed it on Yang Wei's head. Just then, a clear voice came from below the ramp. "Xiao Wei! Lin Yu is back." When he was still a mile away from Shilin village, he saw a fire starting in the direction of his home. When they hurried back, they saw that the house was in ruins. Shichinju wanted to hit Yang Wei, and her aunt fell to the ground, not knowing whether she was dead or alive. There were also two unfamiliar men moving his sugar jar, which suddenly made him feel angry. "Shichinju, you dare to hurt my wife, beat my aunt, and steal my candy? Die!" Swoosh! Lin Yu pulled out the axe from his waist and chopped at Shichinju with red eyes. Chapter 27, The Knife Drinks Blood. Although the knife missed, Shichinju was frightened so much that he retracted his wine gourd and quickly moved to the side. The two drunkards who were carrying sugar jars nearby had never seen such a scary scene before. They shouted, "Mom," dropped the sugar jars and ran away. The remaining Shichinju ran slowly and fell behind, with his entire back exposed to Lin Yu's blade. Phew! Lin Yu changed from chopping to stabbing without hesitation. The bent blade of the axe went straight through Shichinju's back. The white knife went in and the red knife came out. Shichinju fell limply to the ground on the spot, blood spitting out from his mouth, and he reached out for help from the scarred man who came over. Save me, kill him." Lin Yu, who was killing someone for the first time, was not panicking or having a blank mind as others said. On the contrary, he felt his head was spinning, but he still calmly pulled out the axe and pointed it at the strange scarred man. "Kill." He squeezed out a word from between his teeth. He swung the machete in his hand and chopped at the scarred man's neck. Not to mention that the two drunkards had never seen a murder scene before. It was rumored that the scarred man had killed people when he was a deserter, but in fact he had never even held a military knife. This was the first time he encountered a living devil like Lin Yu who killed people without blinking an eye. He subconsciously pulled out the boning knife from his waist and stepped back to block the attack. Click! The two inferior blades collided, leaving a shallow dent and getting stuck together. The blood from the axe splashed onto the scarred man's face, and the flesh on his face began to tremble violently. So scary. If a fight really breaks out, the scarred man is sure that he will be killed by Lin Yu. Taking advantage of the gap between the blades, the scarred man kicked Lin Yu's and distanced himself from him. Turn around, hug your head, and run away, all in one go. He also did not forget to greet his friends who heard the noise and wanted to come back to check. Run! Lin Yu is back. Shichinju is dead. Shichinju is dead. The friends were shocked to see that the scarred man had blood all over his face. Even he couldn't beat Lin Yu, so if they rushed forward, they would only die. Those who were carrying the sugar jars thought they were not running fast enough, so they dropped their sugar jars and ran away, rushing towards the ox cart. Without caring about the dozen or so sugar jars that had not been loaded onto the truck, you pulled me to catch up with the 3 ox carts and rushed up the slope to escape from Shilin village. Lin Yu stood at the top of the slope, staring angrily at the group of people running away. He turned around and picked up Shichinju who was lying on the ground, and stood there in a daze. Shichinju, who had just wanted to bully Yang Wei, was now being dragged up like a dead dog. His unfocused eyes were wide open, his arms were still stretched out, but his chest had stopped moving. Lin Yu sniffed his breath and threw the man back. He held his right hand, which was numb from the shock, with his left hand, dropped the bloody axe, and walked up to Yang Wei to comfort her. "Don't be afraid, Xiao Wei. Now that he's dead, he won't bully you anymore. Brother Lin, I'm not afraid." Yang Wei hugged the person tightly and said that she was not afraid, but her body was still shaking slightly. After recovering, Lin Yu took another look at the dead Shichingjue and felt that everything that had just happened was like a dream. In fact, he had anticipated this outcome long before the axe stabbed the man through the heart. However, the identities of the scarred man and the others could not be found out. Shichingjus's death can be said to have left some troubles. He hurriedly squatted beside Aunt Lin, and seeing that steam was still coming out of her nose, he helped her up. At this time, Lin Cheng and others from the village who had gone to the mountain to put out the fire all gathered together. "You Warzi, you are finally back." Before Lin Cheng could finish his words, he saw Shichingjue lying on the ground in a pool of blood and was frightened. Not only Lin Cheng saw this, but others saw it too. Without waiting for Lin Yu to explain, Brother Shisan covered his head and staggered out of the yard. "Oh no! Shichingjue brought some people from other villages to steal the candy and knocked me out. Go and call Yu." "Hey! You're back." "Well, I came back just in time. Shichingjue not only wanted to steal the candy, but also injured my aunt and wanted to take Xiao Wei away." Lin Yu kicked the boning knife that was left on the ground in front of everyone. "I fought him twice and accidentally killed him. Even though it was an accident, it was intentional. Fortunately, according to the Dachang law, thieves should be severely punished. Shichingjue himself proved his acts as a robber, so he would not have to pay with his life even if he was killed. Maybe, the county government or the village will award you the title of a hero for eliminating bandits." The living person who usually appeared before his eyes was now lying in a pool of blood like a corpse. The simple villagers found it hard to accept. But what was even more difficult for them to accept was that Shichingjue actually teamed up with outsiders to come to Shilin village and take advantage of the situation to rob. "I was wondering why there was such a big fire all of a sudden. It must be Shichingjus's doing so that he could steal candy from Yuwa's house when no one was guarding the door. If he didn't set the fire, how could he bring people from other villages here to break in advance? He came to our own village and injured Sister Lin and the others. He wanted to take the daughter-in-law of Shilin village away. He deserves to be killed." Led by Lin Cheng, many indignant villagers stabbed Shichingjus's body several more times. In this way, even if the county government came to perform an autopsy, they would only think. It was the villagers who, out of righteous indignation, collectively beat the robber to death. Lin Yu took everyone's protection to heart and changed the subject. "It's a pity that those dozen robbers got away. Third brother, did they only steal the sugar jar?" "Right." Brother Shisan asked, covering his head. "Do you want to catch up?" It was dark and the road was slippery, and the other party was well prepared, so it was impossible to catch up with him at this moment. Lin Yu glanced at the tired crowd and shook his head. "Forget it, just consider it as losing money to avoid disaster." He said so, but he knew it in his heart. Since these robbers only took the sugar jar, it means that they knew that brown sugar was the most valuable item in the house. "I will definitely go to the city to sell it. Fortunately, he is the only one who can make brown sugar. As long as we report it to the authorities and ask Jingjiang restaurant to help keep an eye on the market, we will be able to catch this group of people sooner or later. Brother Lin, the candy jar has rolled away. I'll go check to see if it's broken." Yang Wei was a small person with a lot of courage, and now that she had regained her backbone, she didn't take the danger that had just happened to her seriously at all. In her eyes, the sugar jar is the most important. The sugar jar can be exchanged for silver, and silver can be exchanged for pork. Dozens of pigs were lost tonight, and she was heartbroken. As for Shichingjue, he was dead, so he was not worth her worrying about. "Everyone, please lend a hand. Also, Uncle He, can you take a few people with you to tell the village chief about the robbers first, and then go to the county town to report to the authorities?" When killing people, their five senses were magnified. Lin Yu took a rough look and found that in addition to the village chief's family, there was also Qing Zhuniang. The rest of the villagers, including adults who can wield machetes, are all here. Everything happened so coincidentally that it seemed like a carefully planned conspiracy. Shi Qingzhu's family has nothing to do with Donghubei, but Chen Fangzhu's maiden family is from Donghubei. This matter is definitely related to the village chief's family. He learned to kill someone with a borrowed knife quite quickly, but unfortunately the plan was exposed, and Qingzhu Niang lost her only son. This time there will be something exciting to watch. Brother Lin, what are you mumbling about? Look, this jar of candy is not broken, and this jar of candy is not broken either. Yang Wei was digging for the round sugar jar in the grass. Lin Yu retracted his scattered thoughts, roughly estimated the remaining sugar jars, and frowned slightly. There were less than 1,000 kilograms of brown sugar left, and it would be dawn in less than an hour. Today, the wild sugarcane needed to make sugar was burned, and there was no time to make it on site. Fortunately, Uncle Tom, who was in charge, was an old acquaintance and easy to talk to. He shamelessly delayed the completion until the evening, so it was not considered a breach of trust. You Warzi, there is a carriage at the entrance of the village looking for you. They say they are the owner of Qingjiang restaurant. Go and see if it is true. The villagers are now very cautious when they meet strangers and dare not let them enter the village at all. If Lin Yu's name hadn't been mentioned, the wheel would have been removed and thrown into the ditch. When Lin Yu heard this, his brows, which had just relaxed, arched again. The person who came was not Uncle Tong but the owner of the restaurant. This is really a case of when it rains it pours, and when it rains it pours.